Here we go.
G'day, fans, and welcome back to another exciting Wednesday night for what is episode 30. Can you believe it? Of ripping it off the card. That means there's more than 60 hours just of this season alone of us, Aaron and I, almost mostly him and me, yapping and crapping on. 60 hours at least. How nuts is that?
Wow, that's more pollution out there, isn't it? It's a lot of pollution.
Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, so episode 30, and we're only just about to get into September, so we'll probably get another 20 episodes in before we finish up for the year, which is completely and utterly insane. But anyway, it is a Wednesday night. It is slowly starting to warm up. We're finally at the end of bloody winter, which is particularly cool, which means Aaron's store should be a little warmer in the next few weeks, for the next couple of months. Speaking of which, how you going, old son? What is happening in your world?
A capitalist's work is never done, is it? It was super busy all day today. I even had to send Dicko as a lackey to the post office because I was there by myself. So it was okay. It was busy. I didn't notice the cold because I'm so fat. Even the slightest movement makes me sweat. So I'm okay with the cold weather.
Love it. And Dicko's actually here after he's finally gotten back from the post office, so it's all particularly cool. Now, the cool thing is, fans out there, so who are watching this show, as you may or may not know, we're going to show you in a sec, Aaron has his own collectible store, and of course, was it Sunday? Is Father's Day. So here's your store, Shop 3, number 1 Main Street, Blackburn. Now, I understand you've got a bit of a thing going on for Sunday.
Well, I put a little thing together just for Father's Day because I know we usually get people come in the day before saying, oh, my dad likes Star Wars. What can you give me? And you're like, what era does he like? So it takes a bit of planning. And I put this little comic together. I put it up on the Facebook page as well, but I thought it would be appropriate to show here. And it's basically the issues that the Skywalker family go through during Father's Day. Did you want to read it, Dags?
Oh, Christ, it's everywhere. All right, so the top left, you got, Luke, you didn't leave it to the last minute to buy my Father's Day gift again, did you? And on the right, it says, your sister got me a Toll Toys Jawa. It was most impressive. Oh, hang on. And down the bottom it says, I got you something from Toll Toys too, as well. Too is in Magic as well. Magic Sand. So there you go. So don't leave it to the last minute to get you something for your dad this Father's Day. The coolest gifts are Aaron's collectibles. How good is that? So that was a promo and a half that I just sort of read out, wasn't it?
Thanks, Dags. Don't be the child getting your dad Magic Sand, especially if he's Anakin Skywalker.
Yes, very good. As I sort of belt my way through some rather poor punctuation there. So there you go. Anyway, Father's Day coming up on Sunday. If it's a big deal to it, ironically, Aaron is a dad himself, so can imagine his kid going down Aaron's collectibles to buy him something to give to you. Is that exactly what Kale does?
He'll say on Sunday morning, "What's Father's Day?"
Oh dear, that is the most bizarre, ironic thing of the whole lot is that his own kid could go down to the store, buy something out of the $2 bin, so there you go, Dad. Don't say anything to you.
Well, I hope he gives me a gift voucher.
Yeah, $2 for that. So yes, very, very cool. Good stuff. Christy's asked if we're coming from Werribee. No, we are definitely not down that way. We're in the east. You guys are all in the west. So yes, we're all doing very, very well. Now, here's something particularly cool I've got to explain to you. So the other day, Lynn and myself went down to the Caribbean Gardens. If you remember the Caribbean Gardens, it's all closed down now. Now it's a big-ass market and all this sort of bizarre, right? And it's all bric-a-brac and antiques and all this other stuff. But there's a few stalls selling collectibles, which is particularly cool. So as you a bit of a wander through all the obligatory pops and all friggin', Buzz Lightyears and all this sort of all the Disney characters, finally came across something I thought, oi, this is something a bit left field. So I had to take a picture of it and send it to a good friend of ours. And what it is now, it's a blurry photo because my camera's shit house with photos, is an original, but I couldn't tell if it was American or Australian because on the bottom left-hand side, it's obscured, Creature from the Black Lagoon framed movie poster, right? And I saw this and straight away I thought of the Vial because, as you know, the Vial loves to violate the old Gillman, if you know what I mean. And so I sent the picture through to him and I said to him, dude, the bad thing is it's $1,400 and something bucks, right? So the Vial wrote back and said, mate, we need, as in he and I, need to rob a bank to pay for it, to steal the money to pay for it. And I said, well, mate, that is such a great idea. You can imagine him, the Vial, and myself robbing a bank to buy this poster. And of course, we come up with the idea then. It's like, mate, that'd make an awesome fan film. Imagine that. Him and I playing ourselves, robbing a bank to steal money to buy a movie poster, right? And he came up with a title. What would you call that particular movie? Fanboys 2, The Creature from the Bank Vault Room.
Well, you could film it like one of those reality shows, just with a camera crew, and if the bank try and stop you, just don't. No, it's for a TV show. It's for a TV show, and like just load everything into the bag. We'll bring it back later.
Yeah, exactly right. So anyway, so that was kind of funny. So I saw the poster because he's a huge, not just creature from Black Lagoon, but he's also a big collector of Gilman and stuff. And of course, $1,400. Oh, it's a bit expensive, but it's just something I just didn't expect to see that and go, holy shit, check that out. So it was very cool.
Said that the vial is a big creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yes. What? Yes.
You said the vial is a big creature, not only a big creature from the Black Lagoon. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so very cool. What? My daddy's magic sand, he was cremated. Oh, very good. Okay, there you go. Good stuff. If you ever want an excuse to rob a bank, go to Silver K Gallery. I tell you what, even that won't pay for their stuff. You have to sell a kidney or two to pay for them. So, but to be fair, Silver K stuff is a very schmickarooty. What do you reckon?
Silver K, you have to rob the organ bank.
That's exactly right. I like the sound of that. Very cool. Good stuff. I like that. It sounds like a pilot episode. A plot for the pilot episode of Homicide. 2 nerds rob a bank to pay for a movie poster. Yeah, exactly right. Imagine that and stand in front of the judge. Guilty as charged, Your Honor. Anyway, so that's what happened. Obviously, we didn't buy the poster. Still down there, Caribbean Gardens. If anybody wants to buy it and give it to the vial for a birthday gift, $1,400. Maybe we could do a Kickstarter campaign or something. It should be absolutely losing. Yes, the vial is actually here. Yes, which is particularly cool. All right, now we're going to move on because ironically, the first thing we're going to be showing after the intro relates directly to what we just talked about. So let's get into it. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. Now, one of those examples of like, who knew that this was going to happen, right? I took the picture of the creature poster and I sent it to the vial and all that. And then, of course, today, Aaron sends me the pictures for tonight's news. And the very first thing that came up is bloody Gilman. What are the chances?
I know, and what an ugly version as well. He's like a glow-in-the-dark one. I've seen a lot of different Gilmen, and I've got to say, whenever they bring out a creature from the Black Lagoon, it always sells out, and it's very hard to find around. But this one, it glows in the dark. So if you lose it in the Black Lagoon, you can see it at the bottom because it's glowing. I don't know if that Black Lagoon is near Chernobyl, maybe, but that would do it.
Oh, I think I said something else.
No, did you like this creature?
Well, not particularly. I mean, it's not the best looking Gilman, but I mean, the fact that they've done it is very cool. And you can't knock a Gilman at the best of times. But when I saw this, I thought, oh, this is something. If the vial can't afford a $1,400 poster, you probably can't afford this. The fact that it glows in the dark, it's a bit of a wank, and the facial structure isn't that flash. But I give them credit to that they've done it, and I guess that's the most important thing. So, like it or not, there it is.
Absolutely true. So this one's out there pretty soon, or probably more likely to find it online than in Australia. But yeah, it is a creature from the Black Lagoon, and I put it up because you don't see many of them come around.
I love it. Kelvin says it looks terrible. Yes, it's probably not the best representation we've ever had.
Kelvin says, it looks terrible. I want 3 of them.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, the next thing that came up, this goes to show how needy we are. You can sometimes look at a picture of something that's really obscure, really left field, and go, you know what? I know exactly what that is. Now, we'll see how fast someone responds to this. All right, it's obviously a coffin. What movie is it from? All right, off you go, kids. Don't Google it. Either you know it or you don't know it. I picked up straight away, and there's a clue right there in front of your eyes as to say what movie it is straight away. So while I talk to Aaron about random things, type it in, and I want the year as well. Okay, so don't just type in a word. I want the year. So, and there should be something that gives it away. Absolutely, good stuff. I like it. The Black Lagoon is out the back of Frankston. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, well, there's more than one Gilman out there, I suppose. So there you go. So we've got a few. Sorry, what was that, dude?
Frankston is actually the Black Latrine.
Oh, cop that. Hang on. Wasn't Christy talking about being out in Werribee or whatever else? So there you go. So there's a dead giveaway as to what this is from. But before you mention the movie, dude, just explain what are we looking at besides a coffin?
So this is from Necker Action Figures. It isn't actually an action figure. Occasionally they put together an accessory pack that goes with a line of action figures, and they've done some fantastic ones before. In the past, they've done the Predator's trophy room with a whole lot of skulls and bits and body parts, and they've done accessory packs so you can fully load up your different characters with guns and ammo and things like that. This is a background thing that you can have if you've got some of your Universal monsters, I guess.
Very good. So it was from Kelvin, said it right. It's Dracula from 1931. And what gives it away are the aardvarks down the bottom. Why there would be aardvarks in Dracula's castle is anybody's guess. But as soon as I saw this, I knew straight away because they actually showed them in the movie. They obviously, when they were making the movie, they said, oh, we've got some aardvarks. We'll chuck them in. It kind of works, even though it doesn't. But this is particularly cool, I've got to say. So,
yeah. Aardvarks, the most evil of the creatures of the night.
hang on. I don't know what noises aardvarks make. You say, the children of the night, what music they make, and they're just not making any music.
Well, I've heard a swarm of aardvarks can strip the flesh off your arm in under 30 seconds if you're not careful, but there you go. So Dags was absolutely correct from not knowing, just seeing the photos. This is the 1931 Dracula's tomb. It comes with all the beasties that you see with it, plus the tomb. It comes with the tomb area as well, some of the area around it, so you can display your figures. Now, this is fantastic for diorama builders because a lot of people have to, digitally print this themselves now and make it. But if you get this, then you've got a coffin that's the right size for Dracula, and then it's got all the screen accurate accessories. So one of those more unusual things that turns up once in a while, but I think this is a pretty cool item.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? You got the coffin, you got the arm of the dude, but you don't actually have the dude. And I think that's just unbelievable. So, but yeah, it's particularly cool. I like this from DJ. Said, don't disrespect Franks and you Eastern monkey. We're monkeys. Oh, cop that. If we're going to be a monkey, we might as well be a monkey.
Oh, gee, we haven't seen spanking for a while. Do you know what the arm reminds me of? Remember in the 80s, you could buy those arms from What's New that you could just hang out the boot of your car so it looked like that someone was stuffed in there? Kind of looks like that.
Absolutely. And just to finish it off, when DJ said about he's seen acts of depravity that go with Blackburn Station, well, yeah, you're lucky that Aaron doesn't take public transport because that would be a lot worse. Yes, but I've got to say, they've done the coffin, they've done the arm. It's kind of great, but weird at the same time because when you look at the accessories, and if I get the picture up, you go, okay, maybe they just haven't shown him yet. And in fact, when you look at that, you get an armadillo, a rat, a spider. I don't know what that thing is down there, but there's no dude.
It's true. I'm telling you, the depravity of the electronic toilets outside Blackburn Station are a lot worse than anything in Dracula's castle, that's for sure.
There you go. Very, very cool. This is a bit of an in-gag. Don't you mean Ethel the Yardbark? And of course, that's the newsletter for the Melbourne Science Fiction Club, which is particularly cool. I love it. Joe, yes, it is Thing from Adam's Family. So that's the reason why there is no body. It's just the hand. So, yes, when you pick up your coffin, you go, well, thank you, Thing. So, yes, very, very groovy. That's like getting the farmhouse with the witch leg sticking out. Yes, indeedy, doody, doddy. Good stuff. Ethel the Yardbark goes quantity surveying. Oh, yeah, right. Very good. Anyway, so that's particularly cool, I've got to say, even though it's kind of weird that they should make it, but, what the hell? And chances are, depending on if you've got a pet rat or mouse or whatever, and it carks it, you just chuck the arm out, chuck at the your dead animal in there, shut the lid, and you've got yourself a perfectly good burial system. So very good. What do you reckon?
I'm pretty sure one of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre sets came with an aardvark as well. So aardvarks are associated with horror movies.
There you go. So very, very cool. So yes, Dracula 931 has aardvarks in it. Why is anybody's guess? All right, let's move on to something completely brand new. It's all very, very good, and it's very, very exciting. If you're a Master Universe fan, you're going to go off your nut. Bit of He-Man and Skeletor.
Now, this is interesting. There's not many pictures of this out. This has kind of just been released in the last day or so. Do you know why these ones are a bit different from the usual ones, Dags?
Well, look, Skeletor is obviously from the movie, so I assume the left one, the He-Man, is too.
Yeah, they don't actually have the likeness rights to use the actors from the movie because it's all tied up with licensing and stuff, but they can use the designs. And so there have a couple of times in the past been movie-related figures from He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and these are the first ones in a while. The last one sold out super fast and went up in value. So if you are looking for the movie versions of that classic movie, these will be out soon. Again, like a lot of the He-Man stuff, it'll probably sell out fast and then go for multiple times what it cost on the secondary market. But we try and let you know what's out there so you can find it while it's still at a reasonable price.
Yeah, they've cocked up the design a little bit because this part here goes to the ground for Skeletor, so he doesn't have a cut off at the bottom. So they've changed the design a little bit. And DJ said it's Frank Langella, not Lingella, but you've got the right person, and he was absolutely fantastic in that role. But yeah, so a Skeletor, so the purists won't touch this with a barge pole because they're dead set against the redesign from the animated series and the cartoon and the toys. So I guess it is just for people who like the movie, which is particularly cool.
I don't need a barge pole. I'll touch up Frank Bongello any day.
Bongello. Absolutely fantastic. And because he's wearing a mask, I mean, it's not meant to look like him anyway. But anyway, good on him for doing it. I mean, I acknowledge the fact that as a huge fan of the movie, that producing merchandise for the film is really, really limited because of the fact that it's not the same design as the original TV show and the toys. So when they do a Frank Langella version, good on them. It's not the best thing I think we've seen from Skeletor from that movie, but all power to him. And yay team. DJ said, yeah, the Skeletor looks pretty cool. Yes, it's even despite the flaws, it is just damn good to see it. Which I've got to say, I love it. Yes, good stuff. All right, so we move on. All right, so guess what now? As always, it is time for something particularly cool. We've seen some really, really cool stuff. Now it's time to bring this tone of the show down with something really, really crappy. And of course, it's time for this.
Useless Pop of the Week!
All right, so we're going to show you the image of a pop. Don't Google it, don't cheat, don't look it up, whatever. Take a guess as to what you think it is. And when I saw the first image, I thought, I know what this is. And then I was completely wrong. What do you reckon that is, fans? What do you reckon, dude?
So I'm actually quite surprised by the insight of some of our viewers when they get these pops. I saw this and was like, I knew what movie it was from and I knew what scene it was from, but why they would make a pop of this is anybody's guess. No, it's not Frank Langella.
No, it is not. Yeah, I looked at because the first thing I saw was the head and I go, I got an idea as to what this is. And Angie's on the right track. I thought it was Luke Skywalker as well. So there you go. Michael said, shit. You know what? When you find out what it really is, you are going to be completely on the thing. So there you go. Someone getting that is very, very, very clever. I love it. Joe's already given up. Sorry, no idea. And just before I get to you guys, at the Pope. Yeah, righto. It's not a very appropriate figure for that. See, look at that. Oh, I love it. Hang on. I hate it already. I agree with you, William. Kelman said no idea. This is the first time no one's got it. So, sorry, to cut you off.
No problem. I don't know if anyone will get this. I had no idea who this was. You were spot on, though, DJ, with someone getting a haircut. It's the scene from Dumb and Dumber, where he puts the bowl on his head and gives him the bowl haircuts. So there you go. You've got Harry Dunn from Dumb and Dumber, and Dumb and Dumber. So when you get a pop that like our esteemed viewers can't even guess after multiple hints, yes. Well, they'll repackage it as Rick Wakeman in about 6 months' time, and everyone will buy it again. That's the thing with pops. And isn't it nice to know that's number 1042? They've done that many useless pops.
Angie's got the right question. Why? I agree with you. It boggles the mind. So
the thing that surprises me about this, I mean, Dumb and Dumber, both of the characters are in that at the same level, but they did 2 of Jim Carrey's and 4 of Jeff Daniels' character, and you would think that it should be the other way around. I don't know.
The Vial has come up with a good idea for our particular show. Dag and Daggy. Guy said, yep, it's dumb. I agree with Michael. Burn them all. I even went to the Caribbean Gardens. They had a huge stall devoted to these things, and I stood on the outside. I couldn't even walk in and have a look, and it's just like, mate, yeah. I agree. Pops are stupid. Yep, totally agree.
What would be very funny, Dags, is you working in the shop would know this, that Pops don't have tape on the boxes, so you can take them out and put them back in without anyone knowing. What you've got to do when no one's looking in Zing is go and get Luke from the wedding from the medal ceremony and switch it over with that one from Dumb and Dumber, and someone will think they got an incredibly rare variant of him getting a haircut before he goes and gets the medal.
Love it. Works for me. So Phil's finally figured it out. Yeah, Dumb and Dumber. Oh, yeah. I was in the same boat. I would never have picked that in a million years. I've never seen the movie and I couldn't give a shit about it. But anyway. And DJ, you're completely correct. They'll all end up in landfill somewhere in the distant future. But anyway, that was that. A useless pop, a classic cash-in. And Absolutely wrong. All right, now we're going to show you something interesting in a second. So we're going to bring up a bit of the old Greg King's cheaper things. There's been a bit of correspondence between Aaron and Ronnie. And now a lot of people are big fans of Ronnie and all the rest of it. And there's been, we'll explain what's been going on regarding all that. And I've got to say, Ronnie has pushed the barrow to the point where I think he's an absolute arsehole now. And some of the things he said, I think, yeah, you know what? Someone really does need to nuke his factory. But we'll get to that in a second because it's now time for this. All right, so to provide a bit of very quick backstory for those who have not been watching this show, and there's a very, very quick story. The idea is that Aaron buys cheap products from Asian dealers who advertise really good products at really, really cheap prices. And of course, the idea being that either when they turn up, they're the wrong item or then look nothing like the original item. Now, months ago, for those who've been watching this show all this entire time, one of the things that Aaron ordered was a home for hobbits. It's just like a hobbit house, right? Like Frodo's house or whatever, Bilbo's. Okay, and it hasn't turned up, and he's paid for postage multiple times. Now, those who've been watching the story from Ronnie, he has said, oh, he sent it, or he needs to send it again, or he needs more money, and it's been an ongoing thing. Well, Aaron decided to call him up on it and say, dude, the thing hasn't turned up. What is the deal? And you'll be shocked or pissed off, as I was, when you read Ronnie's response. So there's a bit of text. We have to read it all out. This is the correspondence between Aaron and Ronnie, okay? And I'll tell you what, it's you can laugh, but it's not funny. In my perspective, I thought he was an absolute prick. So anyway, let's get into it.
Not funny. It's funny, but it's not funny. It's like the product of depraved minds.
Well, that's right. Bearing in mind that, well, of course, we've made a segment out of it for this show, and it's been a bit of a joke, and we've had some laughs. But if you were a genuine customer, you would be very upset with what was said. But anyway, let's get into it. All right. So this is Aaron, you sending a message to him.
Yes, and everyone has to understand this was over a couple of weeks. So the last episode of Greg King's Stranger Things happened in concurrence with me having conversations with Ronnie about my items. So this is all condensed down into one like little package we're doing tonight. So, dear Ronnie, I thank you for your reviews. He gave us some reviews last week. If you want to check that out, they're up online. They were great, but I would like to. But I would love to do more. I would love to review many products from your company, but most of all, I would love to review the items I have paid for and haven't arrived yet. Where is my small house for tiny hobbits? Where is my Infinity Gauntlet? Where is my Book of the Dead? And where is my Vigo the Carpathian portrait silk poster? I would love to have them so I could admire them and make my friends jealous. All the best, your friend Aaron.
So as part of the scam, and it is a scam, what these companies do is they, because they're charging so little for the products, people spend the money. If they don't get the items, they just say, we don't care. Don't worry about it. You chase them up and say, no, just send more money for postage and whatever else. So what do you think, after all these months, right, Ronnie had to say about Aaron's Home for Hobbits? And those who have been following this story for the past few months, you're going to be shocked by what the response was. Okay, here we go.
I actually think those who have been following might not be shocked, actually.
Well, I don't know. So, anyway, so just start reading, dude.
Dear Aaron, thank you for your kind email. I enjoy review the products you send. All such excellent items. Don't forget to tell your views to buy from us and they can have amazing things to collect. I have bad news for Tiny Home for Hobbits. I don't think you will get it. It is a shame because you did pay the postage for item many times. I'm sorry. We do not refund postage. I think you may have noticed that it was a great item and sales page said it was rare and limited. They have sold out and we can no longer supply you one. I hope this won't stop you spending more on our items. All other items you mentioned are on the way and will be speedily to you. From Ronnie.
I'm glad you're laughing because I'm certainly not. That is absolutely unbelievable. So after all these months, we've sold out. How is that possible? Now, for those who don't know, and I know there's some people watching the show for the first time, he actually contradicted himself in previous emails to Aaron saying, it's been sent. And then later on, 3 months or 3 weeks later, he'd say, we're looking for it. We're going to send it to you post haste. And you go, hang on, you've already said you've sent it. Now he says, they didn't send it at all. They sold out. Yes.
It gets better though, Dag. Surely it can't stay this bad.
Well, as I said, I'm glad you've got a what do you call it? Having a good laugh at it because yes, for those some people out there may have experienced similar issues with this. Okay, with dealing with overseas. What a load of rubbish. Yes, exactly right. All right. So, how do you think Aaron responded? Now, different. His response is completely different to what my response would be, but of course, he's doing this for this show. So, let's see what Aaron had to say.
Dear Ronnie, that is very disappointing. I was really looking forward to the home. I'm confused though. I originally bought the home in January and waited for the item. You said it was lost and then replaced it, and you said you sent replacement and then would often check and see if the replacement was sent, and always you said it was shipped. I paid for the item to be shipped 4 times, and you said you would look into it personally. There is now no chance of me getting the home. My hobbits are patiently waiting in a Smurf house till your new accommodation arrives for them. The Smurfs are about to put the rent up, and the hobbits really need a new home. So even if I was to send more money for postage, you can't find one for the hobbits. All the best, Aaron.
How about that, eh? Yes, very cool. Here we go. Scumbag, cop that, Ronnie. I can make a few coin emojis. It's got to take Ronnie out. Absolutely. I know. Christy said, yeah, not worth the bullets. So, yeah, very good. PayPal refund incoming. So imagine that he said, oh, postage, there's no refund on postage. And Aaron paid for postage again and again and again and again, right? Because every time he would say, oh, send more money. We'll send it to you at your post haste. So it's got scam written all over it. Having said that, of course, we knew it was a scam to begin with, right? And for those who don't know the history, Aaron has received items before, but they're very rarely do they ever look like what they've been advertised. But that's a different discussion. But in this case, we just never got it. And as you said, he bought it in January, right? It's now freaking September and he still hasn't got it. All right. So, okay. So good old Ronnie had to respond, didn't he? So let's see what he had to say.
Hello, my friend Aaron. I am sorry to disappoint.
You suck it up already, dude.
Well, I said the magic word. What if I send more money?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to disappoint you and make it so you can't score your Hobbit figures.
Yep.
What is Smurf? Why they charge you rent? I'm not understand, or if you are joking. I tell you what, if you send more postage again, I will have a lackey check every corner, even every corner of the warehouse to see if we can find one to send you. You at least deserve this after all your patience, from Ronnie.
After all your patience, and not opposed to just all your money. So, so how's that? So they're going to send a lackey. Is it previously you used a different term, underling, wasn't it? So
something like that, yeah.
You got underlings and you got lackeys. So in other words, they've got like this is a sweatshop sort of scenario. They're going to send a little junior down to the warehouse, which is probably the size of the MCG. So find something that apparently we've sold out of. We might have one stashed away, and if he does find one, right? Imagine he'll say, "We found it. Oh, here it is, right here. Send an extra $10. We'll send it to you, bastard." All right. Yeah. So, what do you think you had to say in response? That's at the bottom.
Dear Ronnie, tell you what, I'll look at your shop's catalogue and see if there's anything that I want. If there is, I can buy it, and then you can have your lackey search the warehouse, and if he finds anything, include it with my order. How does that sound? Your friend Aaron. So this is a way for me to get it without having to pay another lot of postage, like I can buy something else. But I have a trick up my sleeve.
Yes, exactly right. So will Ronnie be prepared to send things out to Aaron, knowing he can't get the item he's already paid for, and using the money that you've already paid to send other items out? Do you reckon Ronnie's going to go for that? So not have to spend, as in you don't have to spend an extra cent. I reckon he's not going to go for it.
Dear Aaron, this doesn't seem like it will be getting enough postage to cover the items. Find something big and expensive, and I'm sure I can work it out. All the best, Ronnie.
Doesn't that just kill you, dude?
So there is, I think there's something in the wrong order there, because I did then buy a coin for $1.20.
Yep.
So, sorry, that Dags has left it as a reveal. That was something that I bought. So I got online and found the cheapest thing on their entire site, and I bought it for $1.21 Australian and $2 postage. So I figured I don't mind chucking $3 more to see if I can get this item. Dear Ronnie, I have bought this and paid for this amazing prop replica of the Two-Face coin. Can you please ship my item with this? All the best, Aaron.
So what do you reckon Ronnie's going to say about that, right? He's chucked him $2, not even $2 actually. Do you reckon Ronnie's going to go, yep, that works for me? Okay, we're going to start sending shit at you. What do you reckon Ronnie's going to be questioning and thinking, well, he's more of a capitalist dog than you are, dude, and you are definitely a capitalist woofer. So,
Yeah.
yes, I agree. The greed is on. That's exactly what it is. It's a very clever marketing strategy. And as we've said before, they sell items really cheap. 100,000 people or 10,000 people buy them, don't get them, or they get the wrong item. People say, I can't be fag, worrying about it, PayPal claims, whatever. You multiply that 10,000 times and their company's made a fortune for nothing. So there you go. Dale, good to see Dale joining us. The Ronnie Chronicles, that's exactly what it is. So we're really bringing this undone. All right, so Aaron has said he's bought the coin for $1.21. Ship out all this stuff to him, please, if you could. What do you reckon Ronnie had to say? Either he's going to say, yep, no problem, they're on their way, or...
Aaron, this is not enough.
Now, I'm going to cut you off. What happened to dear Aaron or my friend Aaron?
I know. That was when he thought he was getting cha-ching.
Yep.
Aaron, the coin is not enough. The coin is too cheap. Buy something about $40 or $50 and I will get lackeys to find your items and send them with new order. Get Indiana Jones headpiece. This was one you said, the Soul Greg King. You've done it again and seem to please with. How about it, boss? From Ronnie.
And good old you. And that's what you went and got it, didn't you?
Yep, so I did because I want to get my small home from Hobbits and I want to make the lackey do a job. I think it's interesting it's gone from Ronnie doing this personally to now he has a lackey underling looking for my item in the corners of the warehouse for him.
But how can you get your item if they're sold out, dude? Unless they've got a way of 3D printing more of them out the back like we've seen with some of the other products that you've got. So
I don't hold much hope for getting this item, and thanks, Dale. Now I see Ronnie as Vin Diesel rather than a Ferengi. The Chronicles.
Absolutely shocking. So there you go, Joe. It is brilliant, but not at the same time, and we've really brought the whole thing undone. So Ronnie has minions, yes, and they would be probably like, and now that talking with the Victorian government about employing 13-year-olds, I bet in Ronnie's case, they just take the one off the all 3-year-olds and go, run out there and just find some shit, kids, and away you go.
I thought you were going to say Ronnie employs 13 1-year-olds.
Yeah, very good boss. Yeah, exactly right. Aaron is the boss. So anyway, look, it's made for a fun segment, but yeah, the cracks are starting to show now, and yeah, it just goes to show how these things can be massive scams. But anyway, let's not worry about that. Any final words you want to say on the Greg King's cheaper things before we move on?
Yeah, just like the literary musings of Ronnie is worth the paying for postage once in a while to get his fantastic reviews of all the amazing products that sometimes turn up.
Yeah. Lucky's code for not going to do anything except con more dollars from Aaron. That's exactly right. And of course, he knows that we know that we're aware of what's happening. So anyway, very good. Oh, I love that. Ronnie can afford minions because he pays them with Aaron's postage. Oh, there you go. You're actually personally financing his staff. Oh, love that one. That's awesome. So
I'm a saint.
The spice mines of Ronnie. Absolutely love it. All right, we've got to move on. Otherwise, we'll never get stuff done. But yeah, keep your eyes on this segment and we'll help to see how it all transpires. In the interim, it's now time to go from one dodgy segment to another dodgy segment because it's now time for the good old Lord Vile's Vile File. And as always, Mr. Aaron, I do believe there are some letters that have come, or at least a letter that's come in. Is that right?
Yep. Lord Vile broadcasting from the bottom of the Black Lagoon this week. So we have got some correspondence. Again, it's from Alan, who does send us a few things. I think he's a viewer on YouTube. Dear Master Vile, I was wondering if you could recommend some good children's movies as the school holidays are coming up in a few weeks. And I'm sure many younglings would love to know your recommendations. Alan Cole, level 3 Vile Acolyte. Now, I don't know if he can go and assign himself his own level, but I guess as he participates so much, like he can be a level 3 Acolyte, whatever he thinks that is.
You say, how many levels are there to be an acolyte? Well, there's only 2, and he's already gone to level 3. So there you go. I agree. The Vile doesn't need this level of encouragement. And children's movies, it just by itself conjures up some very, very dodgy things. Yeah. Now, we're just going to backtrack a fraction regarding Greg King's thing. DJ's asked, how can you afford to do this? Well, Aaron does run his own store. And, of course, we got the show. So. And Greg King, the Soul Greg King, is the mastermind behind everything that's going on. Very good. Very good. All right, so we're doing some children's movies, which we're going to violate.
Now,
What do you
now,
reckon there, dude?
now, the Vial could have gone either way with this, but the Vial has been very benevolent rather than malevolent, and it has done some serious thinking about what bad good movies we can show our Sith. And yes, the Vial's Guide to Children's Movies. Warning: Sith children playing.
Very good. Take notes, kids, or take notes, adults, for your kids over the holiday break. All right, let's go.
Okay, the Vile Guide to Children's Movies, and this one is quite a vile movie. I don't know anyone who is a Ninja Turtle fan and thinks this is a cinematic masterpiece. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s with Ninja Turtles, the first movie was quite successful. It came out in the end of the 80s when Batman and other comic book movies were taking off. It was quite well done and had a good budget. Number two, The Secret of the Ooze, had, I guess, a good plot, but wasn't quite as... No, we're keeping him off those watch lists. We're definitely not going to. The Vile could have gone that way, but he went with serious, helpful recommendations for the school holidays coming up. Come on, people, please. The Vile is a sensitive and
get on with it.
So yes, the first one in his Vile Guide to Children's Movies is Ninja Turtles 3 Turtles in Time. It is an absolute crap fest. The special effects are no good. The Turtles' costumes are rubbish. The plot's horrible. The acting's atrocious, and the music is terrible and forgettable. So if you want to bore your little kids to death over the holidays, the Vile thoroughly recommends this as one of his bad good movies to introduce them to the Ninja Turtle franchise.
DJ said that number 3 was better than number 2. Oh, them's fighting words, but you're saying it's not a masterpiece. Yeah, I reckon that is pretty much self-evident. All right, sticking with the sequels, though.
I know, bad things come in threes. And here we have The Vile's Guide to Children's Movies, Never-Ending Story, Chapter 3, or Story 3. And I mean, look at Falcor. It looks like, I'm going to steal Dag's line, he's been flying into parked cars. I mean, what is the deal with that? Why the long face? You've got the amazing Never-Ending Story, which is a bit of a 80s classic. And then Never-Ending Story, the next chapter, part 2, does have its... fans, but number 3 is one of those that everyone likes to forget about. Look at Falcor. He looks like he should be put down. Does anybody have any love for this movie? Definitely not the Vile.
No, definitely not. Escape from Fantasia, so he's trying to get out of Disneyland. But yes, dodgy. As soon as I have to start replacing actors to play the same characters, you know they're going downhill very, very fast. And I don't know many people who saw this. It might have even been a straight-to-video production, but dodgy as they come. But that wasn't the most dodgy thing that came out. This was the 4th film in a series, and of course, it was. There's nothing nice to say about it at all.
It's so dodgy. We've spread it over multiple slides. Everyone sees that logo and recoils in horror because what it means is it's the 4th Batman movie after a good one, an amazing one, an average one, and then the one that kills the franchise for so many years. Look at those costumes, the ones that no one cosplays, the ones that no one wants to have because they introduced the nipples to the Batsuit. That's one of the controversial things, but it was designed by the wonderful people at Kenner Toys because they wanted a leg up on the toy production. So rather than letting them design them themselves, they got their own department in to go and say, this is what the Batman figures should look like. So we want you to ape this in the movies. But it gets worse.
Before we go any further, I've got a question for you. Why is there nipples on the Batsuit for the dude, but not for Alicia Silverstone's character? Hey, what's the deal with that? Why is the Goose and the Ganders stuff? What's the deal with that?
Because if you did that, you'd be cancelled. That's why.
You would be. Yep. No one's going to be buying figures of that. So anyway, sorry, cut you off, dude.
No, I was saying, but you think the good guys were bad? Well, they royally screwed up the bad guys too, didn't they?
Yeah.
So you have this amazing talent where you get Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this I can assure you is the only movie that he's in where he wears polar bear slippers. Not one that they actually released as an action figure, though. I would love to see a Hot Toys where you can buy the exclusive with polar bear slippers. Uma Thurman looked amazingly hot as Poison Ivy and was terribly misused in this movie. Her character arc went from being a mousy scientist to a sexy vamp that tried to seduce the boy wonder, and she was foiled by what? A pair of plastic lips.
There you go. And of course, I got to admit, just going back a slide, a movie's is set for Dodge when good old Batgirls says to Uncle Alfred, or Alfred, it says, suit me up, Uncle Alfred. And you go, that conjures up a whole lot of images that probably people weren't really thinking about when she said that particular line. So,
oh, yeah.
You go.
That was
there you go. It needs to be unzipped somewhere. So, yes, indeed, he does. Yes, you're right. A freeze is coming. Yes.
The plot for it, the one disease that Alfred has is the exact one that Victor Freeze was curing.
Yeah, exactly right. And Christy said this earlier on. We're not going to use it here. Yes, there was a plot. No, there was not. So, yes, Batman and Robin. I know a certain person whose entire Batman collection stopped because of that one particular movie. But anyway, let's move on from those bad dreams and get into something very cool. The Little Bigfoot.
The Little Bigfoot. Now, this is one of those movies. We're getting to the so bad it's good territory here. If you've got some kids and you want to torture them, you can put this on. But if you've got some friends, you can have them round for a party and play some drinking game, like every time a crap costume, every time bad dialogue, every time bad acting. Yes, you would be calling the paramedics in 15 minutes into the movie to pick up someone, but it is a fun one to watch as a group because it is a horribly, horribly bad movie. And you can't deliberately set out to make bad movies. You try and make a good movie and then it goes wrong. And this one was so bad. What did they do, Dags? They had a sequel.
You beat me to it. I was swallowing at the time. I said, I bet they made a second one, right? So there you go.
Yes. So yes, probably there you go. And you can see the costume in the sequel is equally as good as the costume in the first one. But hey, if you're in Australia, lucky us, you can buy the two of them as a cut down cheap video 2-pack. I'm sure Kelvin will have that in his collection.
Yes, that's what you call ultra cheap coffee coasters for sure. Very, very good. Oh, here we go.
Now, here's an interesting one because Mac and Me is one of those. A lot of people growing up had quite good memories about it, but that must be because you watched it before you were 4. Because I've watched this recently. I actually watched the Mystery Science 3000 version of it, and it was much, much better than watching the actual movie. This is the one where they saw E.T. and decided we can do that, but much, much worse. The costumes are bordering on a porn parody, especially the adult ones. The plot is horrible. The special effects are, well, that's an oxymoron calling them special effects. The music's terrible. The acting's horrible. The best thing about it is the poster looks like it's got E.T. on. And if you go along thinking you're going to see E.T., you're horribly, horribly mistaken. Did you ever see this one, Dags?
No, but I did have the soundtrack for it. And you know what? I never saw any images from it until today. And I would never have guessed that that's what the aliens look like. So, yes, definitely a cash in on the old E.T. Guy loved it, which is particularly cool. And Chrissy said, yep, there's a pilot. Yep, really. Yep, exactly right. I love that one. Mac and cheese. Cop that, if you don't mind, umpire. So there you go. Indeedy doody didy. So does that one on the extreme right hand side, does that here then sort of come across as being a Big Mac? Oh, yay, team. Very, very cool.
That's actually the child that goes missing. Those nude ones walking around underneath are the adults looking for him. But we move on to something super classy. This is more of a holiday, Christmas holiday, a Christmas holiday movie. I have to say, I have never seen this, but after finding out it existed, I want to track it down and watch it and make it like an annual Christmas, a Christmas tradition. This is Santa with Muscles. No, it isn't, again, a porn parody or something for the Chippendales. It's actually Hulk Hogan in his illustrious acting career, and this is such a popular movie. I never knew he did this one. He is a muscle builder who hits his head and loses his memory and thinks he is the real Santa. I'd be interested to know if anyone has seen this. I never knew it existed. Have you ever heard of this one before, Dags?
Definitely not. And I like the fact that he says he knows if you've been bad or good. Make of that what you will. So there you go. Moneybags has got the right idea. We need a viral movie night. Yeah, that would go for quite some time at this rate. But even Kelvin said never seen it, never heard of it. So yes, it's clearly didn't make it to the Oscars. There you go. What do you reckon?
One of those. It must be, if it's rare, it must be expensive. So therefore, must be good. Who knows? I will try and check that one out. I'll have to borrow it from the Vials vault.
Very good.
Now, when you get a movie as groundbreaking as The Mask, you know inevitably they're going to make a sequel. But Jim Carrey would not come back for the sequel, and probably that's because he read the script. Son of the Mask is one of those horrible, horrible sequels. And I have to say, I feel sorry. Some of the special effects was done locally in Australia, and I knew some of the people doing them, and they thought they were working on this amazing Hollywood blockbuster, the sequel to The Mask, and they didn't realize it wasn't going to be a Jim Carrey movie and it was going to go straight to video. It should have gone straight to the bin, because I remember getting this on direct to video, and it was one of the most horrible sequels I've ever seen. It has the thing that everybody hates when you have a sequel and you put like a kid in it that becomes the main character who becomes the Mask. The story and the special effects of the original Mask was good, but because they were the very early special effects from that time, they were groundbreaking. It doesn't really hold up now. When you watch this movie now, there is nothing to like or enjoy about it, from the acting, the special effects, or the story. So if you want to put your little Sith into a coma, this is the one to try the next school holidays.
Earlier on, we said Moneybag said we need a vile movie night, and Adzi has said, yeah, let me know so you can be out of the country. So I don't blame him at all. Son of the Mask. What could possibly go wrong?
This. The Garbage Pail Kid movie. Now, this is one I remember seeing on VHS when it came out, and don't really remember much about the movie because I was so horrified by the actual realization of the Garbage Pail Kids. It is one of those like watching something that you shouldn't be seeing. They went with practical effects. I guess they would have been small actors in suits playing the Garbage Pail Kids, and they truly are disgusting. I guess that is the idea of Garbage Pail Kids, but when you have a product that crosses the line so badly that it disgusts the audience, should that product ever be made? It is a joke as a set of cards. It is an abomination as in a movie.
I love this one. So I hope everybody's taking notes of this. So when your kids have their high school, what is it? The school holidays things coming up in a few weeks, show them all of these movies. You can't say no. That's what I think Joe has just said. Extraordinary run of movies. Now, this was going to be the last one, but I thought, well, I've got one to chuck in. Now, of course, I don't like kids. That's pretty much a known fact. And I thought, what kid's movie would I show to kids? And I thought, you know what? You've got some really horrible stuff here, the garbage pail kids and all that. I thought, well, you probably need a Muppet movie, don't you, to chuck one in? Everybody loves a bit of the old Muppet. So my own contribution to this particular list that you should show your kids, and I've gone a little bit left of center for this, of course, is Meet the Feebles. So I thought, you know what? If you're going to watch a kids movie at the school holidays, I reckon you need to toss this in to finish off the group. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, this is an amazing one. One of the early movies of Peter Jackson before he hit it big with Lord of the Rings. One of the few movies where I have seen flies eating shit in a movie that was on the big screen. I did go and see this when it originally came out at the Valhalla, when it was still the Valhalla. It is an amazing movie to show kids, because if you don't tell them what it's going to be about and you just say it's a Muppet movie, they're going to get an education and a half that you can't get from school, I'll tell you.
Totally agree with you. And when your lead actor, as in the rabbit, gets myxomatosis, you know you're into a good movie. All right, so what are you trying to tell me about all these children's movies for the school holidays, Mr. Aaron?
Well, the Vile has dusted them off, put them in his player, played them all, reviewed them, sent them through, thoroughly recommends them, and they've been well and truly violated.
There you go, kids. Well done. Good stuff. So how about that? So don't say that we didn't, or the Vile didn't have some great selections for you to check out. And yes, very, very cool.
Anyone who wants to send in questions, go ahead. But questions like that can go either way. And the Vile was right on the point of making that a very different segment.
Yeah, and in fact, I like this one from Joe. He said, yep, school holiday sorted. Thanks, gents. No worries. Look them up. Make sure if you're going to show them to your kids, you take photographic evidence to show us. And go, yes, you actually did put them in front of the screen. And they did sit through and take the phones off them and the iPads. Make sure they got full attention the whole time. So love it. Very, very good stuff. All right. So after all, violating kids. Just get that right. Violating kids is what we do on this show. So very, very cool. Holy guacamole. All right. Now it's time for a bit of audience participation. We've sat through 45 minutes of all us yammering on. Now it's time for you to say something to us, because it is now time for a little bit of this.
Ooh, baby, do you know that's what...
All right, it is our eBay section. And of course, this is going to be a very popular one with a lot of people. What are we talking about tonight, Mr. Aaron?
So quarterly on this show, I try to do a Lego episode, and you've lucked out. You're on that quarter show tonight where we're looking at Lego. Everyone loves to know, because every one of these we've done this, how much the Boba Fett from Cloud City is going for. Has it gone up or has it gone down? So we've got a few curveballs for this one, but with Lego, there's a lot of people who are knowledgeable, so we'll see how close they can get to some of the guesses.
Christy said, "Do you really want us to know what you think?" Absolutely. Yes, we're all here for the fun and games. Now, of course, with this particular thing, we're going to show you some items that have sold on eBay. Take a guess as to how much you reckon they sold for. Don't Google it. Don't cheat. Don't look it up. Just take a bit of a punt. It's just a bit of laughs, and you may be surprised at what some of the prices went for, whether they be really cheap or really expensive. You be the judge. All right. So, what have we got first here, Mr. Aaron?
So this is the fantastic set. It's a Lego castle. It's not the very first Lego castle, which is the yellow one. This is the King's Castle. It is very, very rare, very hard to get. A lot of these Lego castles had unique pieces and castle pieces and figures and things. To get one sealed and original is very, very hard. So there's a lot of people who collect this, but just how many people want this and how much would they pay? I think there's a few bids on this one, isn't there, Dags?
Yeah, I don't think I've covered. I think it says 5. I don't think it was 15, but there you go. This is how long ago was this? From the 80s or the 90s?
This is the 80s. This is one of the very first of the Lego Castle series. They did a few sets that were Lego Castle, but they weren't all clumped together yet. They were kind of testing to see what was popular, but this is one of the really early castle sets. So yeah.
Cool. So you'd probably assume whoever buys this would keep it in the box and then sell it again 10 years later or thereabouts. Yeah. All right. Ange kicked us off with 62. Where are we? I think that's what, because Ange puts the bid in before he sees the item. Guy said 4,500. Oh, there's some dollars, isn't it? Phil said 250. Gavin's at 50. I'm good to see Gavin joining us tonight. 57.80. Violating the Legoland Castle is the Vile at 650. Bob has said $1,000. Moneybag Sullivan's at 1,500. Kelvin's at 1,750. Christy, she's clearly not into Lego. 5 cents. William is at 1,500. Adzi is at 750. So there you go. So what do you reckon it went for? So it's still in the box from the 80s. A lot of Lego sets don't get kept in their boxes because the idea is obviously you take them apart and you then play with them and build the item accordingly. So whoever has kept this in this entire time, new and rare, you would have to think there are some dollar signs associated with it. So how much do you reckon it went for, kids? So it is the 6080 King's Castle Lego, new and rare. How much do you reckon it went for? Either it went for a lot or it was really, really cheap. It went for a whopping, after 5 bids, $4,850, Mr. Aaron. What's the deal with that?
No, that's almost a home deposit right there, isn't it? It is one of those things you're never going to find at Greg King's garage sale. I tell you, the box Lego is getting very hard to find from that era. It is one of those things that is amazing between the boxed and loose stuff, because literally once you take the Lego out, most of the pieces are generic. So the packaging and the condition of the packaging is 95% of the value of that set right there.
So, yeah, good on you, Mr. Guy. You got to cough up an extra $450, but you are good, and he's a happy camper, you beauty. So there you go. It's still a lot of money, though, isn't it, for Lego? When it first came out, what do you reckon it would have been, a couple $100?
No, it would have been about $80.
Is that it? Oh, holy guacamole. So there you go. All right, so there we go. Is that setting the standard for the rest of the segment? What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
Who knows? But, with us, sometimes it can be expensive and sometimes it's cheap as chips. This is an interesting set because the Indiana Jones Lego hasn't been available for a while. Now, it's pretty hard to see, and sometimes that can ruin the cost of an auction if you don't take proper photos. But this is most of the Indiana Jones sets. They are loose, so they've been put together. They do come with the boxes. You can put them back in, but they're not mint in box. And you can see there you've got the flying wing, and they've set up the scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark. So these are desirable. Is this a bargain, or is this going to surprise everyone?
Yeah, I agree with you. When I first saw this, I thought the photograph is terrible. You can barely see what it is that you're looking at. And it's like, I'm sure they may have individual pictures later on, but by the same token, you want the first photo to be like the real wow, especially if you want to get a good return on this. So, I thought that was kind of a bit dumb, but clearly they've just got the iPhone out and said, click, yep, there you go, upload it, and off we go. All right, was that enough to make it sell for a lot of money, though, or did someone grab a bargain? All right, Indiana Jones Trilogy Collection, Moneybag Sullivan has said $250. Guy, who won the last one, is at $23.50. Phil's at 250. Everybody goes, it's all starting with 2. Gavin's gone for 3,500. Christie's gone for $2.50. Indiana Jones Lego's not her cup of tea. Kelvin said 750. William has said 1,200. So they are loose. And they're obviously used. As you said, they've got the boxes. So they're not mint in box. So does that mean the value has plummeted? Or will they still keep their value? I've forgotten who the last one was. Williams at 1,200. Violating Indiana Jones is the vial is at $350. You have to sell them in Marrakesh. I agree. Bob has said 1,600. So there you go. Edzzy, 126. Oh, that's a very conservative price, I've got to say, but you never know. All right, depends on how rare this is, and also depends on whether somebody said, yes, I desperately want one of those bits. All right, so how much do you reckon it went for the Lego Indiana Jones Trilogy Collection with a really crappy photograph? Still got the boxes, but it's all been used. There were 2 bids. How much you reckon it went for? It went for a whopping $1,425, Mr. Aaron.
I know. I actually think that's a good price, and I do think they shot themselves in the foot by having a whole lot of bad photos on it. If you tried to buy those individually, you'd probably be getting them for about double that now. So again, it is a lot more sets than you can see. There's photos down the side. I think Bob got it. Did he at 16?
Oh, hang on. Where's Bob? Bob. Oh, 16. Yeah, sorry, dude. Yeah, I said, was it William? No, sorry, William, you lucked out. It was Bob. So, Bob, you even get some change back, mate. So, there you go, about $185 back. And I like this one for Michael. Yeah, watch out for bad dates. Yes, exactly right. I went out with one a few weeks ago, actually. Yeah, she was a bit of a hard one. Bad joke. All right. So, good stuff. All right. So, let's move on, shall we? What have we got now? Oh, the old Batty Man, mate. How good's this?
So this is from Lego Batman. It's not such an old lot. It's one of those movies within the last, I think, 5 or 6 years. It's the Batman movie collection. That's the entire. It isn't the entire collection. It's most of the sets. There is one great big Wayne Manor set that isn't there. But if you want to get them all in one go, usually buying in bulk like this, you can pick up a bargain. So there were 7 bids on it. 7 people wanting bargains. Do you think it went for a bargain, Dags?
I don't know. So there's a whole lot of them, and I guess it's more the quantity rather than the quality. It's just like, wow, if I missed out on a few, I could get them all in one hit. And of course, you keep the ones that you want and then sell the rest off. But yeah, there's a whole lot there. And as you said, it's not the complete set, but the fact that they're all still brand new, never been opened. Someone's obviously said time to clean out the garage and give them the piff. And here they all are. So as you would say, normally you would sell these individually and get probably a bit more for it. But yeah, interesting. Because some are no doubt probably rarer than others. All right, so Angie's gone for 6,200. Moneybag Solomon's at 5,000. Phil is at 2,500. Guys at 5,700. Other than Christie's gone for $7. Everybody's coughing up some big dollars here. Michael has said 5,000. Kelvin's at 3,500. Bob is at $3,000. Violating Batman as a vial often should is 6,500. Mr. Uncle Alfred. So yes, there's retail. Hang on, just retail. What do you reckon these all would have gone for, dude?
Oh, it looks like about $1,000 worth of Lego there.
All right, cool, no worries. And William has said 1,500. So if it's $1,000 worth, do you reckon the prices have just skyrocketed up? Or they all go for a bargain? So the 7 bidders, what do you reckon they were willing to cop up for this? So let's have a look. Adzzy, it said 550. Oh, geez, that might be a tad conservative, but you never know. All right, so it's the Lego Batman movie collection, brand new and sealed sets. Jacqueline, good to see Jacqueline's joined the show at $2,200. All right, so as we said, there's a bit of money being chucked around. They're all there. Imagine trying to build them all at the same time. Open up every single box, pour out all the bags, and just go completely troppo. Lego Batman movie collection, brand new sealed sets. How much you reckon went for? 7 bids. It went for a whopping $1,736.01. I don't get the 1 cent, but I have to say it's a bit of a bargain there, Mr. Aaron.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. We, again, as dealers, we'd break them up and sell them separately, and you'd get a lot more. Whenever you see a big lot like this, you eliminate a lot of the people who are just after one set, so you often can get a bit of a bargain. And the way Lego's going, this is the best way to buy it if you're a collector. So if you were after the whole Batman Lego set, good buy. If you're looking for mint and box Lego to split up and resell, also a good buy. So not as much as some people thought it would go for, but still, a few bickies.
Yeah, I was. Because Andrew was way off at 6,200, but William got it at 15, and he had to just cough up an extra 100 and $250 or whatever it is. That's exactly right. So the smart people will keep the sets they want and then just resell the extras. And who knows, if they get more selling them individually, they could make all that money back again. So yeah, very, very cool. All right, here we go.
So here's a bit of a theme. This is the Creature from the Black Lagoon Lego set. From the creature monster figures. This is the swamp creature. They couldn't actually say creature from the Black Lagoon, but it is. This was from the Monster Fighters. I guess it's about 10 years old now. It was one of the nicer, more collectible sets because of the monster that was in it. My son collected all of these and absolutely loved them, and I love them too because I love they used the retro monsters. We ended up putting these with the Scooby-Doo set, but no one needs to know that. How much do you think this would went for, Dags? Do you think it's a good set?
Yeah, I was thinking, where you going with it? I was waiting for you to mention the key thing. They've shown a picture of the box, but the thing doesn't come with a box. It actually says so in the description. Swamp creature fair rare no box. So it's actually false advertising. I was waiting for you to point that out.
I know. I was waiting to see if you would say that. It's one of those things that you can get some dodgy dealers do, where they put a picture of the box up, and then if you don't read properly, it says no box in the title. But there you go.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say, and all you got on was bloody Scooby-Doo and, freaking tangents are us. So there you go. Very, very cool. All right, so there is no box. So they were showing a boxed item, but there's no box. So it's about as dodgy as you can probably get. And whoever paid for this probably, hopefully, realize that. Andrew said 620. Guy said 80. Moneybag Sullivan said 15. The Vial said he actually got that and kept the creature. Good for you. So Adzi said 65. William said 200. Bob said 150. Violating the creature, and he's actually got this, is the Vial at 54. Christy said 1,000 because it's at what? I love hearing the disgusting. There you go. $30 for Kelvin. Jacqueline has gone 340. Oh, yeah. And Phil has said 75. Swamp Creature Monster Fighters 2013 rare. If it's rare, but it's in no box. So just be aware of that. You do wonder what the deal is, don't you? So very good stuff. The old Gill Man. Everybody calls him the Creature, but he's actually known as the Gill Man. Very, very good. All right, so how much do you reckon it went for? The Swamp Creature Monster Fighters rare, no box. Be aware of that. Did it go for absolute chicken feed? Or did it go for a fortune? It went for a whopping $10.
Yeah, no box. Just the creature. Good pickup, though. I mean, you'd probably sell the individual figure for more than that, but bit dodgy not having the box. He got one. Sully got one.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. What was that?
Sully got one. That was all.
Yeah. So he gets $5 back as well. So there you go. How good is that? All right. So things out of boxes. Does that mean that they're as cheap as chips? Let's find out with this item.
Now, for long-term viewers of the show, you would know every time we've done this Lego segment, I have put this figure in. It's like watching a figure slowly go up in value. It started, I think the first one was 200, then 500, and then 1,000. Has that trend continue? Is Boba Fett going higher and higher, or has the Book of Boba Fett, everyone's cashed out and it's slumped? This is the Cloud City Boba Fett. I've explained this before. It was only available in a playset, and it's the only version of Boba Fett that has printed pockets on the arms. And for those printed pockets, that's the difference between a $20 figure and a $1,000 figure.
Cloud City 2002 minifigure just says new, even though it's not new because it's out of the box. But anyway, whatever. All right, so Angie's already started up with $62,000. The thing is this big, right? How freaking ridiculous is that? I assume that's correct, Angie. If you want to change it, you can. It's this big, right? Pockets or no pockets. Moneybag Sullivan has said 450. Guy has said 1,200. What does everybody else think? Don't look it up. Don't Google it. Just take a guess. Christy, you might be on the right track here at 90 cents round figures. Kelvin has said $30. Mr. Phil has said 125. William has said $1,500. It is that big. So there you go. Yes, printed pockets are worth $1,000 more. As pathetic as it is, yes, that would not surprise me at all. Violating Boba Fett as the Vials often should is the Vial at $37.20. Adzi, 3,000. Hang on. 3263827. Yeah, very, very cool. That's the trash compactor's number from A New Hope. For those who didn't know, I'm not even going to read that number out as a price. So what does everybody else think? One bid. One person just said, yep, I'll have that. And if you take the helmet off, is it Tamira Morrison's head or not? It's up to you. But yes, so it's rare. Remember, the word rare has a tendency of pushing up the prices. So what does everybody else think for Lego Star Wars Rare Cloud City 2002 Boba Fett mini figure? It's all very, very quiet on the bidding screen at the moment, so we're just going to have to move on with it. So, all right, it is new. So if you were the owner of this, you could have walked away with a shitload of money or absolutely chicken feed. It went for a whopping $3,600 effing dollars. What is the deal with that, Mr. Aaron?
That is a new high for me. I haven't seen one go that high before. I don't know if that is the new benchmark for the standard of this figure. As I have said, we've been running this show, for a year and a half now. The first one that was on was a couple of hundred. We scoffed when it went for 500. We rolled our eyes when it went over the $1,000 mark, but it's up to $3,600 now. And the Vile got it. He violated Boba Fett.
I like this one. Ange said he wasn't that far off, and if you remember, Ange had $62,000. So there you go.
Give it a
How
year.
Nuts is it? It is this big, right? Just keep that in mind, kids. And I agree with you, Jack. It's just totally nuts, isn't it? Eh? So how would you be justifying that? You go back to your significant other and just say, "Hey, honey, I went and bought this Lego figure, and I paid the equivalent of a large brand new television for it." And it's like, how freaking nuts is that? What's the deal?
Do you know what's happened since the Fabuland monkey? We've got a spanking. We started the show and they were going for $2, and a year and a half later, they're still going for $2.
Absolutely unbelievable, isn't it? Or because is that price because of the printed pockets thing, as you were saying?
It is. It's because there's so many Boba Fett collectors, and that variant was only available in the Cloud City, and it was actually a bit of a lull in Lego collecting. So when that came out, it wasn't the biggest selling set, and then they redesigned everything and did an actually better looking Boba Fett, but everyone wants the rare one.
Totally agree with you. Jacqueline said it can feed an African village for a year. You can't feed them on Boba Fett. One Boba Fett figure, you say, there you go, kids, that's got to feed everybody for a year. Eat them very, very, very slowly.
You can feed a Ewok village for a night.
Moneybags has asked, what would the set be worth now?
Well, here's the really sad thing. I sold that set just before lockdown for $1,000. And that had not just Boba Fett, but all the figures in that set are rare. I reckon that set, mint and box now, is probably going to be pushing $5,000.
Right. Absolutely insane. All right, so it is just time for us to move on. I know it's actually brain-straining stuff, but unfortunately, that's the way things go. And will the price continue to go up? Only time will tell. Before we get into our main discussion, don't forget we've got our socials. Be sure to catch up with us on this, and you can actually watch this show on that. Don't forget we've got the Monday night show and the one on Tuesday as well. So be sure to make us feel loved. Sign up and, keep talking to us and all the rest of it. So, yes, it's very, very cool. All right. Now, we're going to move on to our feature presentation, which is a continuation of last week, Mr. Aaron.
Yep, so we're picking up where we finished off last week, aren't we, with Doctor Who?
No, we are not. So last week we're doing a bit of a countdown, right? And because we didn't get to number one, we've decided to add in a few more LPs and things. And we've mixed up the order a little bit, so it's all a bit all over the place. So don't stress over it, kids. This isn't going from bad to worse. But having said that, maybe it is getting worse.
The Batman movie from the 66 TV series. Now, I've had this soundtrack and I think it's absolutely amazing. And it was a big hit when it came out too. But it is one of those things where they have one hit, the Batman theme, and then they go, oh, what should we spread over the rest of the episode? Don't worry, kids. This is the only animated one we've done. So we've got the amazing Batman doing the Batusi there, and also another one with King Tut where he is dancing too. And I have to say, ever since 66, there just hasn't been enough dancing in the Batman franchise, has there, Dags?
No, it's very funny. So getting to the music side of it, the music kind of really does work for the show. But Neil Hefti, I think, if I recall, did the soundtrack for it. But whether it's something you'd listen to on a regular basis, everybody knows the na music, and each, as we discussed in the store the other day, each of the bad guys have their own sort of respective themes, which I think kind of works. It makes it so you hear the theme and you see the character and you make the connection, but only the main ones. Not like your King Tut won't have a theme, but it's just a good little part of history, I guess. What do you reckon?
It is interesting. Like I said, they made this movie, and obviously none of those themes had had titles, so they made them all up, and there's tracks on this that are called Hey Riddle Riddle Smack in the Middle for the Riddler. There's also one called Holy Hole in the Donut Batman, which has some connotations that we won't go into. And I think the Batman theme was by Neil Hefti, but I think Nelson Riddle did a lot of the instrumental music for this as well. So it is quite a collectible soundtrack on vinyl, and it is still one that holds up for people of that era. And I love the artwork associated with it too. The record has been reissued there, and it's got fantastic new artwork, but it's still evocative of the original TV series, which I think is great when they do that.
Moneybags has said, yeah, your King Tut's theme would be like walking like an Egyptian. He's doing that. Yeah, that's very, very cool. This one we did sort of touch on an episode a few weeks ago, a bit of the old Thunderbirds. Yeah, it's an iconic main theme if ever there was one, eh?
I think it was maybe Ads who said when we said Doctor Who was one of the probably the most iconic theme tunes, Thunderbirds is up there as well.
That's right. Yeah, last week you were saying it was the better of the two. Yeah.
Well, it's not the better of the two, but we have the Thunderbirds, and I tell you what, if you hear the Thunderbirds countdown, everybody knows that, and especially if you grew up in Australia where it was repeated forever and still is. But I have to say, I've been to live concerts which have done sci-fi themes, and Thunderbirds is one of those you don't expect to hear, but when you do, the whole audience cheers because it is such a strong and evocative piece of music. It is pretty timeless. I'd have to say if they used the same theme now, everyone would be happy with it. And it is from that time as well, so it's like a time capsule of the 60s and what was going on in the 60s. So you can't get much better than that for a piece of theme music. You can see here the original motion picture soundtrack and the picture disc and some of the TV21 soundtrack albums as well. We've done an episode on Thunderbirds if you want to go back and look into it in greater detail.
I'm surprised with the picture disc, they actually had all the text put in as well, rather than just focusing on the picture itself. But I mean, they're obviously done to get the word in, but sometimes with picture discs, they do tend to sort of redesign them so you can actually get, because you've got some X amount of real estate, and if it's a round thing, you want to make sure that you maximize the image. But it certainly does look very, very groovy. I wonder if somebody out there just collects picture discs and nothing else and puts them all on display on a wall. They would look mighty fantastic. The only problem is because there's two pictures, one on either side. You do wonder which side you'd have to focus on. So,
yeah. And did you see Moneybags has put the most disgusting comment I've ever seen and probably should be banned for life?
Oh, cop that! Thunderbird's theme is 100 times better than Docky Who. Oh, slap down, Docky. So there you go. Oh, very, very good. No, we love them all equally. So there you go. Good stuff. Yes. So from the TV series of the 60s, we're sort of going to jump forward an extra 20 years. And when this guy's music came out, especially it came out in a film that we're going to reference a bit later on, but when it appeared in this movie, you go, oh, that just works beautifully. And of course, we're talking about Basil Poledouris, who's notorious for doing Conan, which we'll show a bit later, but a guy called RoboCop as well. And his big beating sort of like timpanis and stuff. Good old RoboCop, mate.
It is amazing that Basil Poledouris has done so many genre movies and all of his soundtracks are amazing. He is one of those artists, I would probably say this with John Williams, that you can recognize him from some of his themes because he does often use very similar phrases and things in his music. The RoboCop is an amazing soundtrack. This is one of those that has been reissued again recently. I'm really disappointed with the reissue picture there. I mean, look at the first three albums. You've got these amazing RoboCop bursting through doors and shooting, and then the bottom one is a bit, that's not going to sell a record, is it? You've got to already be a fan to buy that.
Yep, no, I totally agree. Now, a few moments ago, was it Moneybag Sullivan said that the Thunderbirds thing is 100 times better than Docky Who. Phil's come in and said, oh, no way, because the Docky Who rocks over Thunderbirds because, he's the Docky Who president of Victoria. What we need now is the Thunderbirds Club president of Victoria to stick their nose and go, no, Thunderbirds is way better than Docky. At least we can all agree that, yes, good old RoboCop rocks as well. It was fantastic music, and it suited the movie really, really well. And for those who didn't see Conan, they finally got to hear Basil Poledouris' music. Really different, really unique. And it's the kind of thing that when you hear it, you go, mate, I can spot him straight away. I mean, he must be using like instruments that no one else was using because it's really, really, it's like Danny Elfman. Whenever you hear Danny Elfman music, you go, oh, that's him straight away. So, it was just one of those things that really brought the movie to life. Yeah.
Basil Polydoros does this trick, which he does in a couple of movies, where often his musical suites will start off with just one instrument or one repeated phrase over and over, and other instruments are slowly added, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's particularly happens in Conan, but it happens in RoboCop too. So if you are a fan of the music and you like to study that kind of thing, it's really interesting to listen to his soundtracks. The other thing we'll be looking at more this week that we didn't last week, and I'd cut it out because I thought we were only going to have 1 week, is actually the packaging and some of the picture discs and coloured vinyl this week. So if you like pretty pictures, there's a few coming up, isn't there?
Yeah, so our focus is not just on the music, but how the thing is presented as well. Christy's asked, is there a Thunderbirds fan club? There used to be. In fact, Jeffro, who here used to run a club called Fanderson, which of course covered off all the Jerry Anderson stuff. I don't know if there was specifically a Thunderbirds club. Probably wasn't. I think Fanderson was the next best thing. If Jeffro's still watching, he can explain it all. But whether there's probably one somewhere in the world, but I don't think there's one here. I was just being facetious. So yeah,
someone's got to buy that. Someone's got to buy those overpriced CDs on eBay, haven't they?
Yeah. Yes, exactly right. Very, very cool. Yes. So every once in a while, some movies they come out, they put a tune in, and it's like, oh my god, that is just, and like really left field out, absolutely nowhere. And they go, you know what? Is an hook is so good that you go, I could listen to this for hours and a month of Sundays. And of course, it was the Pirates of the Caribbean music. I mean, that was absolutely spectacular, wasn't it?
It is. It's one of those interesting movies as well. But basically, the main theme that they introduced in the first one is so good and so popular that they put it through all the movies. But it maybe is to the detriment of the soundtracks, because one of the amazing things about this, I did a bit of research on this, and it's only the first 3 movies that it got a soundtrack release on vinyl. And because we're looking at mainly vinyl, the last 2 movies didn't. Now, here's something interesting, Tags. You've seen all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies?
Yeah, what are you going to ask me?
What's the name of the last one?
I got no idea. I can tell you a funny story. You said, have I seen them? The answer is probably no. I was in one cinema at one time, and this is about 3 or 4 sequels in, right? I was actually in the cinema, and I could tell the audience was just losing interest. It was just too complicated. Everybody's looking at their watches and that, and he's just like, yeah, okay, you can see this is starting to tank. And that's the reason why Christy said the original is the best, and I totally agree with you. I thought the first film was outstanding, but then they just milked it to the max. And later on, they started filming in Australia and doing all sorts of weird, wacky things. So I got no idea what the last one was. So
the last one I couldn't even remember. It was called Salazar's Revenge or something like that. And I was like, I can't even remember who that was. So I understand totally why there was no soundtrack for it. But the ones that were released, they do have an amazing soundtrack. And if we go back to the slide, I think everyone realizes Pirates of the Caribbean was based on the original Disney attraction. And Disney have been releasing Pirates of the Caribbean vinyl right back to the 50s and 60s. And I did think it was interesting to put one of those up there, because they are just as collectible as the recent movies. And the other thing I found really interesting, and this goes back to what Dag's saying about the main theme is an absolute instant classic, there are DJ remixes of it. So there were nightclub dance versions of the Pirates of the Caribbean theme. So there you go. You've got Captain Jack doing a bit of scratching there. That was the closest picture I could find.
No, I think at least the main theme. I mean, you could stack it up with Star Wars and Superman and all these other movies, because it's like it is so catchy and so just easy to listen to. You go, you know what? Even if I don't see the movies, it just really resonates. And I thought, yeah, all power to them, whether you like the movies or not. You know, the music, at least the core music, is absolutely spectacular. The next one's an interesting one, because sometimes if somebody is investing that much time and money, especially money, into a production, and they go, all right, well, we got all the costumes sorted out and the car sorted out and the location sorted out. It's just got winner, chicken dinner written all over it. What you want to do is hire a music composer and say, dude, don't screw this up. You have to make this work. And that's hard for a music composer to say, I'm going to produce music that is going to be spectacular. It has to be as equally spectacular as the movie itself, right? And you can use the example of Titanic, if you will. But in this particular one, I thought, if the music was crap in this, the whole trilogy would have sunk a death. But as it turned out, the music was magnificent. And of course, we're talking about Lord of the Rings, the original, the 2002 to 2004 trilogy.
Yeah, we've got a few different ones there, but mainly, yes, it's the more recent trilogy that was made by Peter Jackson. And boy, what a massive vinyl set they are. You can see you're going to be in there for longer than the movies if you listen to the music, and that's actually because when they write music, they often don't use all of it in the movie. But when the Lord of the Rings was released, they released all the suites full, so you can actually get the extended musical versions if you
Yeah.
buy the sets. And if you're going to listen to all 3 sets, that's going to take you more than a day. Some of them have, I think, 10 sides to listen to the whole movie. Dags is absolutely right. There was a lot of pressure on that music to be good. And you could do a whole episode on how amazing that the music turned out. But if you watch the bonus stuff on the Lord of the Rings discs, every element of the Peter Jackson was meticulously crafted. So you had all the different races and all the different characters had their own look and own feel and own design, and that went right through to the music. And it is interesting. I remember watching one where Peter Jackson is saying he was listening to the music for the Two Towers and going, I don't know, this just isn't catchy. This just isn't working. And then he said by the end of the day, he was driving back in his Range Rover from location and he was like humming the theme. And he's like, okay, yes, this definitely works. So it is one of those things where sometimes music is an afterthought, but with the Lord of the Rings, it is woven into the whole mythology. And right from Galadriel's opening lines, you will remember the musical phrases that go along with that. And that's good music where you can remember it, but it isn't overpowering, and where it enhances the movie, but it's not to the detriment because you're thinking about the music. So that's a really amazing score.
Yeah. And it is amazing when you sort of sit and think, it's like, okay, it just has to work, right? You can't do something dodgy and you go, you know what? It's got to be something that people connect to. And it's just a running theme throughout the entire 3 films. The other one you included there, of course, was the Ralph Bakshi version, which is from the 70s.
Yes.
And for those who go, well, that's particularly interesting sort of music, and it kind of works because it is a cartoon, it's an animated movie. If you ever see the movie, I think it's Star Trek 4, it's the same composer, Leonard Rosenman, I think it is, and the music sounds very similar to that. So you got music that sounds perfectly okay for an animated movie, and then similar music used in a live action movie. And in my opinion, the Star Trek 4 music doesn't kind of work so well. So, but that's what that is. So, yeah, but you are right though, dude. That is a lot of LPs up here. My God, you'd be going nuts going through all these, wouldn't you? Bloody hell.
Yeah, that's a lot of vinyl. How many couches died to make those sets?
Very, very good. There we go. Yes, Bridget Khazadum. Is that what it's called? Khazadum? I'll believe it. So yeah, good stuff.
It is one
Absolutely love it. But
sorry, it is one of those soundtracks where you hear the track outside of the movie and you can actually visualize where it is in the movie. Yeah,
absolutely spectacular. And it's like, well done, guys. This one's an interesting one that we're going to be showing you because it's relatively recent. And the only reason why it was so successful is the songs that they put in it, right? And it's ingenious marketing. If you're going to set a movie in a certain part of the 20th century, you pick a certain decade, you pick all the music from that decade, and it's just like suddenly your movie's a hit before it's even come out. And of course, we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, well, Dags had suggested a few different ones, and one of the ones we didn't use was Christine, which does the same kind of thing, where there's a lot of music from the time that is very evocative. But we might do a horror one of these down the track, so we save it for them. Guardians of the Galaxy is one of the few movies where the music is actually vitally important to the movie, because the character is actually listening to the music that's on the soundtrack as they are doing things in the movie, and the timing of what he is doing and his coordination is to do with it as well. And they make it a plot point of having his awesome mix. Now, the interesting thing about this, there hadn't actually been any commercially released tapes for about a decade. They'd phased them out, but this came out and there was such a demand for the tape that they actually produced tapes for this movie, and it was the first one for quite a long time. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is another movie. We've put them both together here that uses the same plot, where he's got his second mixtape and he also has all the tracks on it related to what's happening in the movie. So that's quite ingenious. And we've talked about this before. When the trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy came out, everyone saw these tracks in the trailer, and you're used to going and seeing the movie and none of the tracks they use in the trailer are in it. And then they turned out to be pivotal. And just after Guardians of the Galaxy, you got the Suicide Squad trailer came out, and it did that very thing where everyone was excited because it used Bohemian Rhapsody, and then it had nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah, it's very similar to Wonder Woman 1984 when they used Blue Monday, and that didn't appear in the movie either, if I recall. I found it interesting because in the movie, because he's got the tape and it just goes through all hell and high water, and I was waiting for them to chew up because eventually tapes do eventually chew up, you know, and you're gone. But you can imagine some young people from millennials looking at that thing and what is that? And you go, dude, mate, it's a freaking tape. Have you never seen one? And because you can't find tapes anywhere, you go to like JB Hi-Fi, it's like, what's
No
tape?
tape.
Doesn't exist. So that's going really old school, even though it's old, but it's not that old. But yeah, it was. You're right. It was pivotal to the story, pivotal to the narrative, and it worked for exactly everything you wanted to do. And of course, he uses an old-fashioned Walkman and everything. And yeah, that's ingenious, incorporating the songs of the '70s and or the '80s into the storyline and making it all sort of work. And yeah, that's just magnificent. So yeah,
If they had that scene that you suggested where the tape chews up, a funny end to that would be Rocket going, I think we have the technology to fix it. And then you see him with a pencil winding it back on.
yeah, exactly right. You do wonder if any. I'm not sure if any of the songs recharted back in the charts because people said, "Oh my god, I haven't heard that for 3 decades," and suddenly
Yeah.
it makes a reappearance back in the charts again. Just gets a new lease of life. That would have been interesting to find out. So, very, very cool. Love it. You finally upgrades to the iPod. Yeah, exactly right. So, but yes, the old Walkmans, can't say no to that. All right, so we brought this one up last week. Just touched on it briefly. I didn't know they produced all these picture discs for it. It kind of freaked me out actually. But of course, it's the old Dune from 1984, and I've got to say that I'm sort of just trying to get my head around the images on the discs. So it's like, yeah, this is very trippy.
Well, I've pictured this because, as you were saying last week, June was originally one of the ones we weren't going to look at because it's notorious for having quite an average soundtrack. They couldn't get the masters, they couldn't get the extended versions of it, and the one that was released wasn't the best quality either. So what I've done, I've put the 3 different versions of June here. So you don't have to freak out too much. It's only those 2 at the top that are the original version. They really haven't done much with the Lynch version of June. What I find amazing is underneath is it Jodorowsky's June. Now that wasn't
Yeah.
even made, and it's still got a more amazing soundtrack than the movie that came out. And then on the other side, of course, you've got the recent version of June, and that's come out on standard vinyl and the collectible colored vinyl, which has all the really nice pressings as well. So if you're a June fan, there are different choices. Some of the ones I didn't put, and I don't know if you've got any of these, there are actually records of Herbert reading extracts from June, which are quite interesting. And one of them actually looks like it's got Jabba the Hutt on the cover, but it's not. It's one of the,
Yeah, that would be the God Emperor. Yes, I've got a couple of those. So as we mentioned last week, for those who didn't watch the episode, the music was by Toto, the rock band who did Africa and Rome and Rosanna. And so after Queen were doing Flash Gordon and Highlander, Toto got involved with June. But there's no lyrics at all. It's just all music. And the music, for that reason, because it's done by a band, not by an orchestra or anything, is really unique and different. And it's actually easy to listen to. It's actually, really enjoyable. So it was just unfortunate it was for a film that actually kind of died a death in the box office. But unlike Flash Gordon and Highlander, which went on to big, massive success with the audiences, Dune didn't. And as a result, good old Toto sort of came and went as far as their contribution. So, Now, what's interesting with the next one is it's a classic example, unlike, say, Lord of the Rings earlier, which the movies are fantastic and the music is fantastic. What happens if the film doesn't do that well? They made a lot of money, that's fine. Critically, it got panned from here to Christmas. Even today, it's still not rated very well. But the music for it and its following sequels ended up being a massive success from the fans' perspective. And you could actually argue that the music from these movies is actually better than what came before it. And of course, we're talking about the old Phantom Menace, because the Phantom Menace soundtrack, good old Johnny Williams really pulled one out of nowhere for this one. And this Clones and specifically Revenge of the Sith are absolutely spectacular. And people still love them even today.
Well, it is one of those, you're absolutely right, where people came out a little bit disappointed after such a long wait to see a Star Wars movie. But I cannot remember one person ever criticizing the music. The Duel of the Fates is the only time I remember getting up for Rage and a Star Wars track was on Rage. So popular was it that it charted and was on Rage. I also remember getting the promo Duel of the Fates VHS, which was basically Maya were given a 4-hour tape of the repeated Duel of the Fates over and over. And I can just imagine if you were in the audiovisual department and you listened to it all day, day after day after day, probably would wear a bit thin on you. the original release for me was actually really disappointing, because we spoke about this last week, how picture discs are not as good quality as vinyl. And it was released in the age where vinyl had really died and wasn't available very much anymore, only special releases and for collectors. And it was before we get the really heavy vinyl that we get now that is fantastic condition, and the picture discs are printed into the vinyl. The Phantom Menace down the bottom there is the picture disc, and it was just a star field. So it was really a waste using a picture disc to just put a star field on, and then it was the acetate on it that isn't as good quality as vinyl. So that came out in 1999 when the movie was released, and then it took another 20 years for it to be reissued and given the actual polish it was deserved. There were good versions of it on CD. I can't deny that. But I think for anyone who collect vinyl, it's only the last couple of years when Mondo has started doing all the fantastic issues of soundtracks where they've brought out colored versions and picture discs and full versions of it. Were you collecting when Phantom Menace?
I had the Phantom Menace picture disc. I don't even know where I got it from, but no, I never got them on vinyl. So a lot of these ones that you're showing me now, the new releases I've never seen before, and it's like, oh, that's very, very trippy. I just got to go on.
No. I was just saying,
I just got to wind back. So, Jeff, for those who are wondering about the Dune thing, like as Aaron said about the Jodorowsky, I can't pronounce his name. Jeffro made a point of saying there's a documentary on it. So, and it's actually really interesting. It goes for 2 hours about the Dune movie that was never made in the 70s. And after you've watched that, you can ask yourself, well, having it not made was probably a good thing, but it's each their own. With the, where was it? Moneybag Sullivan said each of the prequels had their own signature track. For myself personally, the Order 66 music for Revenge of the Sith is just the best of all the tracks, right? When all the Jedi are getting killed off, it's very, very evocative. And it's just like, you could say, look at the original trilogy that John Williams did for the movies back in the 70s and the 80s. And I've got to say, I think the prequel music is actually far better, just because, it was 20 years later. As well than the original trilogy. I think the prequel trilogy music is more superior. So there you go.
I think what you find there is because the prequels benefit for having all the original music in it, and then they can add more stuff to it. So it is better. Yeah.
As he asked, did the Phantom Menace have a massive spoiler in the back? It did. Qui-Gon's funeral was the name of the track. And of course, people hadn't seen the movie. The turn in the back, he dies. Oh, shit, I didn't know that. Oh, spoiler alert. Too bad, so sad. So, yes, very, very cool. The next image we got is actually 2 movies. They're actually about 10 years apart. Very, very successful for different reasons. But here we are, a bit of your last strobe lighter and a bit of CE3K, mate.
Well, I put these 2 together for 2 reasons. We had them mentioned last week by a couple of different people. Were they coming up? Also, there weren't a lot of releases of them, so we can put them together. But how similar are the posters? If you look at the poster of him standing on the road with the aliens in the background, and then you just have the freeway, he could be standing on the Close Encounters poster, and they've just updated it to The Last Starfighter. So the music on both of these was very different. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, go.
Yeah, the music on these was very different. They're both really good soundtracks. It is interesting that Close Encounters is almost like a prequel to E.T. in the sound that they used for the movie. It's probably a little bit darker and scarier, but when it gets into it, you can see John Williams had this sensibility that he was aiming for when he was dealing with aliens. The Last Starfighter, I don't remember being a standout soundtrack when it was originally out, but for this episode I went and re-listened to it, and it's a really good soundtrack too. What memories do you have of these ones, Dags?
I remember one of my brushes Rollins when I had The Last Starfighter and I heard it for the first time. I thought that's actually quite good because there's a really, really sort of Craig Safran, I think is the name of the composer, something different, a little bit left field, which is particularly groovy and had a really nice hook to it. The thing about Close Encounters, for those who didn't know, it was one of those occasions, they did this with Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. You had the 12-inch LP, okay, you got the soundtrack, but they also produced the 7-inch single as well. Why is anybody's guess? Like a disco version. I don't even know what theme it was. And so if you ended up getting the version with the bonus disc, which was the 7-inch single, and it was packaged with the LP, you go, well, good for you. I mean, with Star Trek 3, for example, you actually had 2 LPs. You had the main record with the music on one side and the other side. The second record only had a track on one side only. The other side was completely nothing printed on it whatsoever. And it was a disco version of Star Trek 3. So I think one was inspired by the other. But as to why you would have a disco version of Close Encounters, how can you do
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. And again, Close Encounters is one of those soundtracks. The musical phrase for the aliens has been featured in so many other movies and parodied in so many other things as well. And when that happens, you know that you're onto a winner. Even today.
And it turns out Colin actually bought my copy of Last Star. It's supposed to be Fighter Not Freighter, which is particularly cool. So there you go. Good stuff. Very good. All right, now another movie got released, and of course you get some music. Hans Zimmer, I think, was the composer for this, and you go, "Oh, dude, that is such a grab." And I'll tell you what, the violinists, their arms must have dropped off because it's just hour after hour after hour. And of course, it was the old Batman Begins. It's like, how grouse was this?
Not since Alfred Hitchcock were there so many violinists with repetitive strain injuries. But
you imagine when they go, all right, you say to the orchestra, okay, cut, we're done. They're going, oh my God, it's about to drop off.
So you're absolutely right. This is another soundtrack that was different from what had gone before, but iconic enough to be memorable. And because this was the beginning of a trilogy, it sets up the musical themes that follow all the way through the Christopher Nolan movies and the Batman, the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises. I was surprised there hadn't been more releases of this. Usually when you get a big franchise like Batman, there's all the different colored vinyls for this. There's the limited edition and the red edition. And I guess that's good if you don't want to collect a million of everything. But I was surprised that when I was researching this one, there's enough pictures, there's enough space there for me to put a big picture of Batman and not millions of different records.
It's an interesting one because if you sit and ask somebody, okay, of the Batman movies that have been produced, okay, we'll take the 60s one now, and you go, which one of does they have music that really resonates with you, right? And that's right from 1989 to today. And I would argue that people say, okay, we all know the 89 movie, the music for that film, like that Danny Elfman did. Maybe Batman Returns, maybe. Nobody knows anything about Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, right? You get to Batman Begins and they go, yep, I'm switched on with that. Justice League and all those Batman versus Superman, nah. The Batman, nah. Right? So Batman Begins was a real high point, and you could almost argue between that and say Batman at 89. I would actually argue that the Batman Begins stuff is just like really, really spot on and really Mickey Mouse. It's probably each of their own, but yeah, what do you think?
It's interesting you say that because the ones that you have found more memorable are the ones that have orchestral themes, and the ones where you said, nope. Because I'm into music as well. I'm like, well, that one had Nirvana tracks, and that one had the U2 track, and that one.
But that's cheating, though, to a large degree, because you're using a group who's maybe produced a song for the movie, or they've just used a song and chucked it in the movie. So it's not really apples for apples, really, when you sit and think about it. That's how I would argue it anyway. But I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So you didn't get into Method Man on Batman Forever. But it is one of those things where you're absolutely right, where by putting a current pop band in it, I guess Nirvana is not a current pop band, it actually locks it in time, where if you have a orchestral score, it kind of becomes timeless, and the movie itself is what is iconic, not the soundtrack that is supplied by Seal or other artists.
Yeah.
Although Susie and the Banshees is amazing in Batman Returns.
Yeah, I agree, and it was just sort of in the sort of the background there for one of the scenes. But yeah, the Batman Begins music, considering it's a Batman movie, and you do wonder if you took that music and put it in another Batman movie, just as is, just turn the sound down, chuck the sound in, would it work? Imagine the 89 Batmobile herbing down the streets, right? And you put the Hans Zimmer, the violin stuff. You do wonder how that would mix. So, yeah, very, very cool. So with Batman Begins, of course, you end up with the Dark Knight. And a key thing that I loved about this was the signature tune for the Joker, which was just the high-pitched sort of whine, which they did use an instrument for, I believe. So, yeah, what do you reckon?
Well, this is an amazing soundtrack. This is one of those soundtracks that you probably wouldn't play a lot unless you wanted to increase the tension in your life. But it absolutely works as a movie because, as you said, it's that high-pitched whine that's in the background. And through the movie, it kind of goes up and becomes more and more irritating. Not irritating in a way where the audience don't like it, but it heightens to the feeling of watching the movie in an oral way because you're hearing almost the discord of the Joker when he's on the screen, and it highlights Heath Ledger's acting so well. by almost jarring you whenever he's around, because it sort of is that sort of not music, but it is music and it's part of the soundtrack. I think the packaging of this is amazing. Of course, with the Joker, you've got the purple and the green, and then you've got the very striking imagery that came with the movie as well. So again, not a soundtrack that you'd put on and listen to, and they've got, you know, a double disc edition of it here, but an amazing soundtrack that suits the movie so incredibly well.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's the kind of thing that works. The last thing you want is to go, oh, I'm really hanging out to see this. They've rebooted Batman. It's going to be great. And the character's great. And the scenes are good. And the actors are good. And the music's crap. And you go, oh, mate, what a letdown. But in this case, it works really, really well. And they complement each other quite nicely. So well done to them. Another theme that came out, and this was good old Johnny Williams yet again. And this time it was X amount of years later after he did Star Wars and Superman and all the rest of it. And you're thinking, surely he's got nothing new that he can come out with that's just going to absolutely rock your socks. And he comes out with this, and you go, oh, dude, that is freaking awesome. So awesome. In fact, some people use it as a wedding march, including me. And of course, that was Jurassic Park. How grouse was the music in this?
Yeah, so this is actually one of the most popular soundtracks ever.
Yeah.
And you can probably understand that because it is iconic. And if you've got kids even and they want to play with their Jurassic Park toys, you can put that soundtrack on and it's going to enhance the play. Where I said Dune didn't have enough collectible versions, the Jurassic Park soundtrack has so many amazing versions for collectors that you're spoilt for choice, and I couldn't put them all on. If you look at the different colored vinyl there, they all have different names, and I've only put, you know, one or two of each one, but you can see you've got the ones that look like they're the colors of the Jurassic Park Jeeps, the red one, and you've got the green one. You've got the double albums, but I've only pictured one of each of the amber edition. So you've got a translucent amber pressing. And do you know what that white one with the spots is called, Dags? You might guess it.
Nah, sorry.
It's the Dino DNA edition. So when you saw Mr. DNA, that's meant to represent that in colored vinyl. Then, of course, you've just got the amazing Jurassic Park logo as a picture disc, and you can even buy replicas of the gold and silver discs for the soundtrack. And I tell you, soundtracks don't often get that if they're orchestral. They do if they're pop music, but they don't if they're orchestral. So it is one of the most popular soundtracks ever. And what did my head in with the new movies is they almost go there with the soundtrack, but they don't do it properly. And I think if you've got something that's so perfect, don't chuck it out and try and reinvent it. If they had used the original soundtrack as it was in the original movie, I think the newer movies would have been better for it.
It's amazing how a theme can just push buttons, and because the movie was spectacular. This is the first movie because you're seeing something you've never seen before, and you put the music over the top, and you would have thought, "Oh, Johnny, how can you have something more original in your head that surpassing what you've done previously, which has just been epic?" But with Jurassic Park, it's like, yeah, it's just one of those things where it does invoke emotion from a lot of people. And as I said, as a wedding march, it was just magnificent to listen to. And even now, you can just listen to it just by itself and you go, you know what? I'm dialed in straight away. So, yep, very, very cool. We're going to wind the clock back, though, an extra 10 years prior. We did bring this up earlier. And this is where good old Basil P. first made his appearance. We're going slightly left center of this one. Of course, there's a bit of the old Conan the Barbarian. But of course, his timpanis came out and were thumping away quite happily. And of course, that put him on the map, didn't it?
Oh, look at Schwarzenegger. He's showing his timpanis right there. But
hey, you want to see some other timpanis? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Yeah, go on.
So Conan the Barbarian was a groundbreaking soundtrack for what was essentially a B-grade movie, elevated to A grade because of the cast and the money that was thrown at it. And Dino De Laurentiis is really good at doing that kind of thing. They kicked a goal with the soundtrack. It was released globally, and you can see there's a couple of international editions there. But I can't believe there was a disco version that came out. That was one I had never heard before. But when you get a disco version of something, it generally means that the soundtrack as it's released originally is so good that people want more of it. Maybe they didn't want more enough to make the disco version a success. The soundtrack for Conan the Barbarian is another one of those soundtracks where you put on any particular track and you know what track that is from the movie. So if you're talking about, the raiders raiding the village, or the giant snake death scene, or the sacrifice scenes, all the music is very evocative. The only fault I can find with the music is when they did Conan the Destroyer, they basically used only the same themes as the original Conan and just put them in different scenes. Still great music, but wasn't written specifically for the movie.
Yeah, I think it's one of those movies where the music is actually better than the film. And maybe that music could have been used somewhere else because it's like, mate, it's way too good for this. But yeah, and you're right. For the second one, it was just like, oh, save a few bucks. We've got the soundtrack. We've got the rights to the first movie. Just chuck it all in here. Yay, team. It's all good. All right. So we're going to go fast forward a few years. And of course, this was meant to be the conclusion of last week's episode. Okay. So I think we've got another 3 or 4 to go and then we're done. And some of these will push some buttons with some fans. And of course, you can't go past the old aliens, mate.
So this is good on a whole lot of different levels. But the first thing I have to mention, I don't know if Jeffro's still watching and got this. You see those discs in the middle? They are alien acid-filled discs. So they've actually liquid centers like the bubble gum you could get in the 80s and 90s. But when they move around, the actual liquid inside moves around, and they're meant to be like alien acid blood in there. And that is one of the most unique packaging or products for records that I've ever seen. Now, I don't know if you know the background of Horner writing for this, but it wasn't a hand-in-glove fit with James Cameron. James Cameron is a lucid-free filmmaker, and he would often not lock down the movie. And when you are writing music for a movie, you really need the finished scenes. And he would be coming in and saying, oh, we've re-edited this scene, so we need 30 seconds of more music on the end of this, or we need to cut some music out and bridge it. And that's one of those things that you just can't do. And if you've watched the massive documentary on aliens on the quadrilogy that came out yonks ago, it is really fascinating to see how they got on each other's nerves and how they would never work with each other again. And then when James Cameron made Avatar, he goes, do you know what? I think I know the person I want to do the music for it. And he came back for that. And so it is interesting to see how sometimes out of, I guess, desperation, something amazing comes out of it. Aliens, now I don't know if you remember this, Dags, you probably will. Aliens has the track with the drop ship and the explosion that is in every other action hero trailer since Aliens came out. There has been so many movies where I go, that's fantastic. Oh, hang on a second, that's the track from Aliens.
Yeah, as we mentioned last week, James Horner was notorious also for using the same sort of music in all these other movies. So they did end up saying, hang on, I've heard this like 5 times before in different movies with his music. And of course, you mentioned about him with James Cameron. I think he did the music for Titanic as well, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly there's a bit of a friendship there. And the one thing I wanted to just bring up from this particular picture, this actually happened on, if you're a bit of a collector, way over here, you got the image of the Varisi Sarabande version of the cover. Okay, which of course was with Ripley and Newt. But the inset here was from a company called in England called That's Entertainment Records, who would release exactly the same music, but with different covers. And as a result, some of their covers are actually really, really cool. Like this one is just the text Aliens Only, which I think is actually more interesting than the Ripley and Newt one. And just quickly, Joe said about the disc, will they destroy your CD player? We're talking LPs here, dude. We are going way back in time, even though we're talking about brand new things. So we're no CD. No, we don't need no stinking CDs here. We're LPs only. Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
Wouldn't that be amazing if it was actually acid and if you punctured it, it actually melted a hole in your record player?
Yeah, exactly. And let's hope you're not living on the top floor of a building because it'll just go through all the floors. Ed's asked about the original special. Oh, hang on, more special edition. It would be the original only. I don't think they would do music. They would use the same music for the special edition as a guess.
Yeah.
So yes, very, very cool. Good stuff. I'd love to see an episode of game soundtracks. I don't know what that means. Okay.
There are a lot of. I'm not an expert on it. The trouble is, we try and stick to what we know, and we do know a broad range of stuff. But game soundtracks, I'm not so up on.
Neither am I. So there you go. So, but Aliens, yes, a very, very, very successful. Now, this one I always used to call the dung dunk music because all the music is just dung dunk. And it's an absolutely classic, but it works so well for the movie. Maybe not the kind of thing you'd listen to like if you're in a good mood, but of course we're talking about The Thing. So the Dung Dunk movie. That's it. It's just Dung Dunk, ding, ding.
So the thing is another one I don't know if Jeffro has, but it is another amazing packaging. If you look at the packaging there, you see where there's that sort of crack. The record doesn't open like a sleeve; it opens in the middle like ice cracking. So you've got the packaging that you pull apart from either side, and then inside you've got like maps of the Arctic and things like that. Then you have different editions again, of special editions and different coloured vinyl. So you've got the ice version and the thin version, but I love the blood splattered snow version, which is quite a good one to do with the thing. The original soundtrack was always hard to find. John Carpenter's stuff sort of never was popular when it came out, and then everyone hunted it down after. So The Thing was one of those movies not popular when it came out, became a cult classic. Same with stuff like Big Trouble in Little Chinatown, The Fog, not to such a degree, but The Thing definitely got the spit and polish when it was reissued. So it is one of the nicer, more modern soundtracks. When that came out, that was a couple of $100. Now it's hard to find one under $500.
What I really like about the Thing soundtrack is, unlike say using Jurassic Park, which is all the orchestras going completely chopper and all the rest of it, and it's just magnificent. The Thing is almost like the opposite, where they kept the music very minimalistic. And of course, it was made in the 80s, so there's a bit of synthesizers behind there as well. So amongst the ding dong, you got some of the low synthesized tracks, but it suits the film, the tension of the movie really, really well. So it's almost like, you don't need big bombastic tunes to support what's going on, because we are looking for suspense and like, who's who in the zoo and what's going on. And for that reason, it is just, I think, like we mentioned with Planet of the Apes last week, and even things like Forbidden Planet, sometimes you can do things a bit left of center and it works beautifully for the images you're supporting, even if by itself you wouldn't like make a point of saying, I'm going to put this on on a nice happy Saturday night and away we go. So yeah, I reckon that is particularly cool. This one is the next one. The next one we've got coming up, and we're almost at the end. The first movie, the soundtrack for it, I thought was, by itself, as I just said a moment ago, sometimes music can suit the film really well, but when you listen to the music by itself, it's complete rubbish. Right? It's like, oh my God, that is just like splitting my ears big time. But of course, the sequel comes out. And of course, the sequel is a completely different thing. With the movie, it's excellent, and the music is excellent as well. For that reason, we're focusing on Tron Legacy.
Yeah, so Tron Legacy, I will always say the soundtrack was robbed of an Oscar the year this came out, because it was such an amazingly good soundtrack that enhanced the movie. But it is also, as Dag said, one of those soundtracks, you don't even have to have seen the movie. It's a good listen, even if you just want to hear some music. Tron Legacy came out. The soundtrack was an instant hit. It charted really well. Of course, it had different tracks that I don't know if any of it made it to the charts, but I do remember seeing a Tron Legacy video clip on Rage as well, which I said you really don't see that often. The only other one I really remember from a sci-fi movie was The Phantom Menace when it came out. Although I guess if Miko had made one back in the 70s, they'd have probably put that on Rage too, or Donnie Summers on Sound. But it is one of those where Daft Punk took hold of it and made a project of it. And not only did they appear in the movie, they appeared as the characters at their concerts. It became sort of something that had a life outside of the movie. It did well when it came out, and it has been reissued. And I really love the reissues where you've got the Tron Identity Disc versions, and you can get the different characters, and you can choose which one you like and get it as a vinyl record. What are your thoughts of this soundtrack?
Oh, yeah, it was excellent. It was really, really good, and it sort of really suited the tone of the movie, which is funny because as like the original Tron soundtrack, which I listened to, it was like, oh my God, that is horrendous, but it suited the film, right? It suited the style of the movie, which, you kind of get it in the digital world and all the rest of it, but by itself is awful. But bringing in, this is almost like harking right back to the whole thing of bringing in Queen and Toto for the movies. You're bringing in Daft Punk, already well-established musicians, unique style, unique tone, put them in this film, which is already by definition a little bit left of center, a little bit different, and it worked out really, really well. So, good on them for doing it too. And for those people who love Tron, it was just like, and just nice cherry on top. So, good stuff. All right, so this now we're getting into the Johnny Williams sort of like thing here, because long before he was doing Jurassic Park and all these other fantastic things and Phantom Menace and whatever, he had to go right back in time. And of course, you can't knock a bit of the old Raiders. What do you reckon?
Yeah, so a lot of the movies where there's been sequels, often the sequels, the soundtrack gets better because they take the original theme and then they add new themes to it. I have got to say, Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of those instant timeless soundtracks that's a classic, from the Raiders March to the closing credits. Everything in that soundtrack is perfect. When we were doing this as a countdown, this was right up there in the last couple. Raiders of the Lost Ark was another one that the soundtrack sold really, really amazingly well. Up until Star Wars, I think the biggest selling soundtrack was actually 2001. We didn't really look at that just because it's all classical music. So that was all music that already existed. This and Star Wars and some of the other soundtracks that John Williams was doing around that time actually made studios sit up and think, oh, we need to do a division that looks at soundtracks and producing soundtracks, because up until that point, they'd been for audiophiles and connoisseurs, but now they were breaking into the the public, and just everyone wanted to listen to these kind of soundtracks. This soundtrack is amazingly good in that it enhances the movie. We've said this before with John Williams stuff, where the movie is an amazing movie, but you add a John Williams soundtrack to it and it makes it an absolute classic.
And the funny thing is, the main theme, the Raiders March, isn't the main theme, right? There's no opening theme to the film at all. It opens in silence. So you get it all towards the end, and that's in the opening closing credits. So yeah, a little bit different. And I like in the top right-hand corner, you've got some extra picture discs going on there. You've got the Egyptian theme happening.
Yeah, so they did do some picture discs. It was one of those. It wasn't until recently you didn't have to wait for Raiders stuff. This has been issued over the years. So there's the anniversary versions of it. There's different versions of the movie with soundtrack, the actual story of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the orchestral theme. They've got the picture discs, and you've got the 1 and 2 album version of it. And then recently you have got the coloured vinyl, and it's been remastered and has extra tracks on as well. So if you're an Indiana Jones fan with Raiders of the Lost Ark, you can't go wrong with getting that. And you can collect a few different versions of it from all around the world as well.
Yeah, and unlike a lot of movies, even the sequels that came out, I mean, there was some good stuff in the sequels, and John Williams did the music for those. It's the main Raiders music that everybody sort of gravitates to, which is particularly groovy. And sorry, just quickly, and the soundtrack, for those who are interested in the art, the actual cover is, there's two versions: a standard version, you got a fold-out version as well for those who are hunting that stuff down. Sorry, dude.
What Guy was saying earlier about gaming soundtracks, one of the things I did play a lot was the Indiana Jones Lego game, and it had saturated through the whole game the John Williams music, and it just shows you something that enhances and makes a movie more exciting. Also enhances the gameplay, and the game was intuitive enough. When you went to different areas, it went and played different themes, and it sort of built up as far as you got into it. And it really just shows you that John Williams is a master of all the audio visual mediums that his music is presented in.
Exactly right. So this was actually going to be our number one from last week, actually, where Aaron's number one. And of course, a good old little Johnny does music for a movie. It's a massive hit, massive success, has to do the sequel. And of course, well, it's just going to ramp up from there, isn't it? And of course, you've got the old Empire Strikes Back.
Now, Empire Strikes Back, I know that you've said you actually prefer the prequel soundtracks to it. But Empire Strikes Back at its time did something that not a lot of soundtrack sequels did. Whenever you had a movie sequel, they usually did what we were saying with Conan and stuff. They just used all the original music for cheapness. They recycled it. Look at Superman 2, where they didn't even get the original artist back. They got someone, and it was fine, but he just took the original suites and worked it into the new movie, probably for about a tenth of what John Williams would have cost. Empire Strikes Back kicks a goal for me because the template set in Star Wars was already amazing and the biggest selling soundtrack at the time. And then Empire Strikes Back added the Imperial March and Yoda's theme and some of the other themes that have actually been the bedrock foundation of Star Wars and the Lucasfilm Star Wars and Disney stuff since then. So where Star Wars was an amazing soundtrack, Empire Strikes Back cemented John Williams as probably the greatest soundtrack composer in history, and built on the original, and it was even better than the original. It really didn't happen with soundtracks at the time.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, you talk about the Imperial March, and of course, if you ever watch, it just pops up when you least expect it in the most unusual places. I mean, sometimes in college football games in America,
Yeah.
American football, the bands, they've got the brass bands, and they'll just play the Imperial March out of nowhere. And you go, mate, even after like nearly 4 decades now, it's still something that tune people say, oh, if you've got trumpets, mate, play that because it just works perfectly for the brass instruments. So, yeah,
Yeah.
very, very cool. And I got to admit, there are definitely some excellent tunes within it that you can just dial into, and you go, you got the asteroid field and the battle in the snow, and some of it is just like really cool. And of course, with the soundtrack, of course, they produced a single disc version and a double LP version as well, which is particularly groovy, which is what we have here.
Yep. So there's a couple of different versions of the soundtrack, and what you're saying, correct. You get a comedy show and they show Trump and they put the Imperial March on it, and instantly everybody knows what tone they're going for. And as you were saying, in football matches, and I do think you are probably right. Duel of the Fates is probably a musically better piece of music, and some of the stuff in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith is amazing. But I would say, maybe even more than the Star Wars theme itself, that the Imperial March for Vader is the most recognized piece of
Yeah.
music from Star Wars.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic, eh? The bad guys theme. Moneybag Sullivan's goes, can you either of you tell me the Imperial March is first played in the movie? That's at the beginning when the probe droids are being shot out. It's just a slight variation of it. But yeah, and it is funny where you can get the signature theme coming through, and you go, you know what, that I could listen to that forever in a month of Sundays, just like as you mentioned with Duel of the Fates and various other tunes. So the digital one here, the John Williams one here, it was actually a digital pressing. Actually, it's not the actual soundtrack of the entire movie, but it is John Williams and his music. And when you listen to it, especially on a good quality sound system, it just came out spectacular. It was such a ramp up from the normal version, because the double LP version, if I recall, some of the pressings weren't done very, very well. They were rushed through, so the center hole was slightly off center and all sort of business, and there was a few other issues, and it came with the booklet and all sort of business. So, but yeah, I agree with you, man. And for a follow-up movie from Star Wars, Empire was an absolute winner. Right across the board. So there you go. Oh, look at that. I win a day out with Moneybags. So how good is that? Good stuff. Hang on, there's a question there. That's a wild cover on the bottom right, which is that one way down here.
Yeah.
So,
Now that's
yes, that's one of those knockoff LPs that they don't
yes.
have the rights for the images for, so they'll just use their own images and just pretend that is a Tauntaun.
It is amazing where they do that. And if a kid saw that, they'd go, back then you see it at the movies and that's it. And probably your imagination goes, oh, that must be Darth Vader and that must be a Tauntaun and that could be Luke. But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Exactly right. And I mentioned it last week, but up here you got the Miko version of The Empire Strikes Back, which I actually think is fantastic to listen to. He did some really good stuff, way better than the Star Wars thing. So there you go.
I'll tell you what, there's a music video for that, and it starts off with the snow speeders, that and the Mego version. If there was a different version of Star Wars that had a more contemporary track, that is a fantastic image that goes with that scene.
Very, very cool. All right, so it's now 10 o'clock. We've got one more picture to show, which is actually a compilation, right? So we're going to chuck it on anyway because we've come this far and everybody's sort of sticking around. And because the soundtrack of your lives is our voices, which is particularly cool. So we're just going to chuck in some random pictures of honorable mentions. Is that how you wanted to call it, dude?
Yeah, they are. They're sort of ones that we could have done. You could have done another episode of this and gone on and on and on. But you've got Willow, which was another fantastic soundtrack. But I find the themes are good. The filler stuff in between isn't so memorable. Lady Hawk is interesting because it was a sword and sorcery movie where they used contemporary music, and it actually really jars when you watch the movie to me sometimes. But it's a good soundtrack. 2001, we mentioned earlier. It's a seminal movie with an amazing soundtrack, but all of it was classical. So none of it was really written for the movie. It was just matched up with what was happening on the screen. Still a great soundtrack, but not really one that's going to be your number one because it's the best soundtrack for a sci-fi movie ever.
But having said that, you can never listen to the Blue Danube and not think of the space station and the Orion docking. So it's just stuck in your head, mate.
Well, the movie was probably responsible for classical music going through a research with a certain group of people who are into that kind of thing. You've got the last one on the top there is Silent Running, and that's a really interesting one because the whole ecology and I guess being a green movie went through to the soundtrack where they actually put folk music in it, and it is really different from your average sci-fi soundtrack. We could have probably looked at it a bit more, except when I looked into it, there's just that release and there's no pretty pictures to put with it for anything else. Did you
Now,
like?
if Jeff, I don't know if Jeff is still watching, he probably isn't, but he actually has a green vinyl version of this Silent Running, which is particularly cool. And of course, the movie deals with environmental issues decades before environmental concerns become the thing, which is what they are today. So, yeah, it was definitely ahead of its time.
Yep. You've got Logan's Run, which is a really interesting electronic soundtrack and very memorable, but not one I think you can play a lot. You've got Escape from New York, which is another John Carpenter movie, and does have a really good soundtrack, but it doesn't stand out as much as his other soundtracks.
It's once again, it's all synthesized, but some of the tracks are really cool. And once again, it really supports the movie. And as I was mentioning earlier about how That's Entertainment Records did their own covers, this is one of their covers. So,
yes.
Yeah, if you like really, really funky music, it works, and it works really, really well. Yeah.
Yep. Watchmen is an amazing soundtrack, and probably one of the best introductions to a movie ever is the alternate version of history in Watchmen that's played to times that are changing. Again, it's a bit like Guardians of the Galaxy, where the tracks really support the movie. Again, though, it is a really compilation of amazing 70s and 80s tracks. It does have some good instrumental music, but I do find with the Watchmen, the tracks that already exist are what is amazing about it. You can't really remember any of the other music that's in it apart from the track. So it does do that thing with the Batman movies where it kind of limits itself to the already existing music of the time rather than standing out as an amazing soundtrack. And the last one there is The Fifth Element, which is an amazing soundtrack. I think it is a really great sci-fi soundtrack. I remember watching it at the cinema for the first time and seeing the opera come into it with the blue alien singing the different arias and thinking, oh, this is really mind-blowing. So it is one of those soundtracks that a lot of people used to collect, but it has kind of disappeared, and there hasn't been a really amazing reissue of that either. So what do you think of those last couple of soundtracks, Dags?
No, all good, dude. A couple of things. Chrissy said that she hopes that they use some of the original music in Willow in the TV series because the Willow music from James Horner was really groovy. And you are right about, as mentioned here, like the Divas Dance starts off as operatic and then gets into the rock sort of version of it, which is something you didn't see coming and worked really, really well. So, yeah, definitely some excellent tunes there. Fifth Element is exquisite. Oh, there we go. How good is that? So, love it. Yeah, some good things. So there's a lot of good listening there, and that we're just dealing with pop culture stuff. We're not even dealing with other movies and other things that are going on around the place. But it's absolutely fantastic. So, dude, we got through it all. How good's that?
Yeah, for everyone who watched, I hope we highlighted at least some of your favorites. And if there's any that we just totally forgot, feel free to call us up on it. But I think we did a pretty good job on covering the collectible soundtracks from movies and TV over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and what it does show is that with pop culture like science fiction, fantasy movies, and all the rest of it, as we discussed in the past 2 weeks, there's been a lot of really fantastic material produced, and there's a good chance that if people are going to say what's the most memorable tunes, this is just general public. They may even say this movie, the top 10 are all pop culture, sci-fi / fantasy movies, and it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if that was the case. So, we're yay team for us. So there you go. Good time to be a musical nerd. What can I say? Any final words before we sign off for this evening, Mr. Aaron?
Oh, I'm done.
No. For those who haven't had a chance, make sure you go to his store for Father's Day gifts on. Don't go on Sunday, obviously, but pop up in the next couple of days. Get some stuff. Get a gift voucher. Give it to your dad on Father's Day. So there you go. Go to Aaron's Collectibles and buy some stuff, Dad. You'll absolutely love it. So it is going to be very, very cool. In the interim, I think we are going to buzz off. And thanks for sticking around for those extra few minutes. We'll leave you to it, and we'll see you all next time. And if you do have a vinyl record, make sure you look after it because vinyl forever, as they say. All right, all the best.
Or scratch it like a DJ.
You ever had to do that? I had to do it once with the sound effect, actually push a stylus across a turntable to get the scratching sound effect. Oh, it nearly killed me, but it was like, oh my God, horrible feeling. But I had to do it for a sound effect, so there you go. All right, leave you to it, guys. Party hard, rock on. Okay, take care.
Good night. Have a good night.